made it. Yeah. Should be right there. We'll start this meeting. Sorry for being late a couple minutes. Mary, roll call.
Mayor Brunner,
Here.
Vice Mayor Rich,
Here.
Commissioner Clark, Commissioner Collins,
Here.
Commissioner McDonald.
Here.
And now we have an invocation, Pastor James Brocious. Thank you, sir. We'll all rise. Thank you.
Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Father in heaven, thank you again for your love for us and your care for us this month of love. Help us to show that love one for another. Father, again, you are good and great, and I thank you for these ladies and gentlemen, all of them, Lord, that serve you here and serve us. Give them great wisdom and understanding. Give them empathy toward one another and toward the things that we're trying to accomplish here in this state and in this city to bring your grace and mercy upon all. So give wisdom and a unity. Your blessing, I pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
And now we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mary, Mary, you let the record show that Mrs. Clark, Commissioner Clark is here?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Now we're going to start in the proclamations. Let's see here. Oh, yes. Yes, the arts moment.
Well, she's, Jim.
Let me see where I put it. Oh, I thought I had
We're
it
going,
here.
you have the ABCs of Black History in Martin County.
Got it. Yes. No, that's not it either. Throw it over, screw it over down. I apologize. This is Gertrude Waldron's Arts Moment, and Chanika Chikiba Mincy will be taking the proclamation, or the Arts Moment. Thank you.
Hello. Unfortunately, Tham is not here today. ABCs of Black History. My information is only as good as my source. Blacks have been in Martin County since the 1800s, when some were bought as slaves by whites and immigrated from the lower southern states to cultivate the rich soil of South Florida. A. Anderson Middle School, Dr. David Anderson, longest serving school board member and first Black elected to Martin County School Board. B. Bill Bryant, first Black orthodontist, Board of Director of FAU, first Black president, Chamber of Commerce of Martin County. Johnny Bell, business owner, over 50 years in East Stewart. C. Marion Carpenter, principal of Port Solana Elementary, first teacher to integrate the elementary schools of Martin County. D. Guy Davis Park is named for Guy Davis, manager of Stewart Dodgers. E. Eugene Brown, Jr., first admitted to the Air Force Academy. Eula Clark, city commissioner and fighter for East Stewart. F. Felix Williams, teacher of the year in 1957, the state of Florida, second black to have a school named in his honor. G, Willie Gary, first black attorney. Greg Buckle, first black architect. H, Robert Hall, first black mayor. Joyce Hobson, first black female elected to Martin County School Board. I, Isaac McHardy, business owner in East Stewart. J, Julius Graham, first black general contractor. John Scott, longest-serving employee at Martin Memorial Hospital. K, Kerry Anderson, youngest deputy supervisor of election. 7th Street was renamed Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. L, Lorraine Grant, first black food service manager. Deborah Langston, first black employee at the Clerk of Court Circuit Court. M, Gilbert Miller, first black deputy of Martin County Sheriff Department. Audrea Moore, lead author of Treasure Coast Black Heritage. N, New Monrovia, 1912 area in Port Salerno that started as fishing settlement. O, Oradell Landers, the first black woman to run for a seat in the city commissions. One-room schoolhouse in Port Salerno educated many children in 1929 with the teacher Costello Williams, who was paid $75 a month. P, pediatrician, Dr. Bola Gear, first black pediatrician in Martin County. Willie Petway Park is a historic Gomez settled to the area in 1909. He owned property on both sides of Florida East Coast Railroad. Q, Quilly McHardy, educator for over 40 years and managed the first black golf league. R, Rosita Dickerson, first black female employed at the City Hall and Martin County Sheriff Department, first as a clerk, then the sheriff deputy, where she retired after 32 years. Tick Ridge, one of the county's oldest black communities, first settled in 1898. Goodbreads, Christie, Micah's, Taylor's, Halls, and Wiley's. S, Willie Smith, first black head of Martin County District, first black head of Martin County School District Transportation. Willie Simpson, oldest veteran in Martin County. T, Thelma Waters Infant Care Center, built in the 1920s. Thelma Waters is still helping the residents of Indiantown today and was recently inducted into the Florida Women's Hall of Fame. U, Union Baptist Church, built in 1923 in Jensen Beach, was destroyed September 11, 1949, rebuilt in 1961. B, Victor McHardy, longest-serving volunteer at American Red Cross. W, Walter Odom, first black principal of Murray High School. Leroy Washington, first black to advance captain of Stewart Police Department. X, Zenobia Anderson, principal at Port Salerno Elementary and Crystal Lake Elementary, director of curriculum at Martin County Schools. Y, yearning to do better, and all they did. Z, zealous about accomplishing their goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Jakiba. Very much.
Mayor, now we have the students of Gertrude Walden who are going to sing a song for us real quick. Stand in the center.
Thank you for coming, little boys and girls. Thank you. They're doing great. Better than me. Think so? Precious. Wonderful. Stay right there. Stay right there.
Take a picture.
Look up front. Now we'll go into our proclamations. This is Engineers Week, February 18th through 24th. Recipient, Devin Curran, Florida Engineering Society, Treasure Coast Chapter Vice President.
We can't hear you, Becky.
Well, let me read it again. I apologize. Proclamation Week. The Engineers Week, February 18th through 24th, 2024. Recipient, David Curran, Devin. Florida Engineering Society, Treasure Coast Chapter Vice President.
I can have the attorney read the proclamation?
Yeah. Sorry about that, Lee. Will you read that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Whereas engineers design, construct, and maintain the infrastructure and facilities that contribute to a high quality of life for all residents of the municipality, the municipality growth depends on engineers executing innovative, creative, and high-quality solutions to technical problems. And whereas the purpose of the Florida Engineering Society is to advance the public welfare, promote the professional, social, and economic interests of the engineering professions, and stimulate and develop professional concepts among all engineers through education and excellence in practice. And whereas members of the Florida Engineering Society and the American Council of Engineering Companies of Florida are making strides to interact with the engineering education sector to prepare future engineers to maintain our economic leadership and quality of life. And it is important that we recognize and honor the continuing contributions of America's engineers. Now, therefore, in recognition of Engineers Week in the city of Stuart, I, Rebecca S. Bruner, Mayor of the City of Stuart, do hereby proclaim February 18th through the 24th, 2024 as Engineers Week.
Mr. Kern, I'll come down and hand you this.
I just want to say thank you to the City of Stuart for celebrating and honoring engineers during this week, so thank you. Thank you, guys.
Our other proclamation, House of Hope, 40th anniversary. Wow. And our recipient is Rob Ranieri, CEO of House of Hope. Go ahead, Lee.
Whereas House of Hope is a community service agency founded in 1984 that empowers Martin County residents to overcome hunger and hardship, and whereas House of Hope provides support for basic needs, including food, clothing, and financial assistance, as well as life skills through programs and classes in education, health, and nutrition, job readiness, the arts, and more. All of their services and support from their 4 locations throughout Martin County in Stuart, Hobe Sound, Indiantown, and Jensen Beach are always at no cost to those who need them. And whereas in the past 40 years, House of Hope has grown from a small group of volunteers in a single shelter to serving Martin County residents through its 4 pantries, 3 enrichment centers, 3 thrift stores, 5 gardens, a produce farm, and a packing house. Through all of its programs and services across Martin County, House of Hope now reaches over 8,000 people each month directly as well as 13,000 people via its food bank partners. House of Hope also provides case management, financial assistance, work and career support, as well as housing support. Throughout the year 2024, House of Hope is celebrating its 40th anniversary of empowering our community, Martin County. Now therefore, I, Rebecca S. Bruner, Mayor of the City of Stuart, do hereby congratulate the House of Hope in celebrating its 40th anniversary and proclaim February 2024 as the House of Hope 40th anniversary.
You're amazing, Rob. Would you like to say a few words?
Sure, thank you. Thanks for being part of our journey. We appreciate our partnership with the city and our garden that we have here in the Easter community. And also just thank you for recognizing this important milestone for our organization. We're very proud and privileged to be able to serve the community. And the growth the past few years especially has been exponential. And we're looking forward to a bright future of continuing to support our residents across the county. So thank you very much.
Oh, Becky, hold on.
We have another proclamation, National Children's Dental Health Month. The recipient is Lori Sang, Executive Director of Little Lights Dentistry. Would you like to say a few words, Ms. Sang?
Let me read it. Let me read the proclamation
I forgot.
first.
Please go read our proclamation. Thank you.
Whereas the American Dental Association held the first national observance of Children's Dental Health Day on February 8, 1949. The single-day observance became a week-long event in 1955, and in 1981, the program was extended to a month-long celebration known today as National Children's Dental Health Month. The 2024 theme is Healthy Habits for Healthy Smiles. This month-long National Health Observance brings together thousands of dedicated dental professionals, healthcare providers, oral health champions, and others to promote the benefits of good oral health and prevention to children and adults, caregivers, teachers, and many others. And whereas Little Lights Dentistry is just one example of a community of dental professionals, volunteers, and donors committed to providing quality dental care to uninsured, low-income children in need in our local area. Little Lights Dentistry seeks to reduce dental health disparity, improve dental health outcomes, and increase access to care by emphasizing consistent home care routines with regular dental appointments, brushing with fluoride toothpaste twice daily, flossing daily, and reinforcing nutrition habits that benefit all family members. And whereas the future is to a large measure dependent on the good health of our families, and good health can be achieved in part through good dental habits learned early and reinforced throughout life. Now therefore, I, Rebecca S. Bruner, Mayor of the City of Stuart, Florida, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2024 as Children's Dental Health Month.
Thank you.
Well, we want to thank you. This is the staff of Little Lights Dentistry. My name is Lori Sang. I'm the executive director, and we're proud to be the only pediatric provider throughout the state of Florida to offer free comprehensive dental care for low-income uninsured children. And we're located right here in the heart of Stuart, and we are a new partner with you. So we're excited to be here, and thank you for acknowledging this momentous occasion for the month of February.
Awesome. Thank you. Very nice that you all came out to get this confirmation.
And Becky, I'm going to have you move this way just a tad bit. Okay, this way. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sang. And staff.
History Month. Nina Dooley, President of the Afro-American Citizens of East Stewart. Would you read this for me, Lee? The
Sure.
proclamation.
Whereas in 1926, historian Dr. Carter G. Woodson established what would become Black History Month to bring special acknowledgement and awareness of African American accomplishments, contributions, and history and shaping of America. And whereas the African American community has endured decades of struggle to be recognized as equal among our fellow citizens and has persevered through hate and bigotry to stand up for their rights and the basic rights we are all entitled to, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And whereas the theme for 2024 focuses on African Americans and the arts. This theme is infused with African, Caribbean, and Black American lived experiences. In the fields of visual and performing arts, literature, fashion, folklore, language, film, music, architecture, culinary, and other forms of cultural expression, the African American influence has been paramount. African American artists have used art to preserve history and community memory as well as for empowerment. In 2024, we examine the varied history and life of African American arts and artisans, and whereas the City of Stewart is proud to honor the history, contributions, and achievements of African Americans in our community throughout our state and our nation. Therefore, in recognition of African Americans past and present in the City of Stewart, I, Rebecca S. Bruner, Mayor of the City of Stewart, do hereby proclaim February 2024 as Black History Month.
I don't see Ms. Dooley here tonight.
Mr.
Oh,
Gore.
Mr.
Gore
Gore,
is here.
please, thank you. Mr. Gore is past president of NAACP. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I want to thank the City of Stewart for recognizing the African Americans community and the part that we play in the community. So we want to thank you very much. And now we'll turn this in to Nina. All right, God bless.
Appreciate it. God bless you. Now we'll move on to child trafficking awareness. Jonathan Dobbs, Florida Faith Alliance, is here to receive this. Mr. Dobbs, I'm going to have Mr. Lee read this proclamation.
Whereas human trafficking is a form of modern-day slavery in which human beings are controlled, abused, and exploited for profit through labor and sex, and child sex trafficking is the fastest-growing crime in the world, children have become the primary target of traffickers and predators as reported by the Florida State Alliance to End Human Trafficking. And whereas human trafficking and child sexual exploitation online is happening in our own backyards, with arrests documented in Stewart this year, Florida ranks number 3 in the nation for human trafficking hotline calls. Local agencies, organizations, businesses, schools, and leaders are connecting to bring an end to this horror of enslaving and abusing children and adults through awareness and equipping citizens to provide tips to local law enforcement. Florida Faith Alliance and Visionary School of Arts are collaborating to provide awareness videos and curriculum for children of all ages to be a part of the sweep of awareness in Martin County. And whereas the City of Stewart Commissioners call upon all residents to support local Florida Faith Alliance awareness campaigns to equip parents, grandparents, and concerned citizens to eliminate human trafficking and help empower schools and citizens to recognize the signs, turn in tips, and save lives. Together, we can rise up to stop this travesty through awareness and education with a long-term plan to house and restore victims. Now, therefore, in recognition of child trafficking past and present in the City of Stewart, I, Rebecca S. Bruner, Mayor of the City of Stewart, do hereby proclaim Child Trafficking Awareness.
Mr. Dobbs, do you have a little video or a little?
We do. I was going to do it after the
Yes.
couple words. if
Yes,
that's
sir,
okay.
please do. Thank
That'll work?
you. Yes, sir.
Okay. I'd like to thank you, Mayor Bruner, for allowing me to be here today and this afternoon. Thank you, city council members. It's good to see you. Again, helping the community, especially become aware of the world's biggest crime, which is child trafficking. Children have become the main target of traffickers, according to the Justice Department, and unfortunately, America is the greatest user of child sex. Over the last 2 years, 2 teachers have been arrested in Martin County for sexting students. 4 men were arrested for having thousands of pictures of child porn that were violent and as young as infants. One of those men was a janitor at Jensen Beach High School. Prior to the pandemic, our CEO and founder, Lynn Barletta, turned over a tip that came in after an awareness presentation to our Martin County detective liaison, which resulted in the bust of a large trafficking ring from Stewart to Lake Worth to Indiantown. There were hundreds of users, and women and children were rescued. Florida Faith Alliance is advancing a movement with 11 proclamations since January of 2024 from Indian River County to Palm Beach County, and we will continue throughout this year. And our mission is to educate churches, synagogues, businesses, organizations, schools, work, and law enforcement to fight child sex trafficking and provide restoration to the survivors. And the fastest growing gateway to trafficking are sexting, sextortion, and child pornography. And these gateways are in every school. Recruiters are normally the same age as the children, and they're starting sex trafficking rings, sometimes with organized crime. And legislation, as you know, is a very important part of this. And the Florida Faith Alliance has been working with State House Representative Toby Overdorf since 2019 in order to change laws and advocate for victims. We encourage you to contact our Florida senators to support bills HB 1 and HB 3, which limit underage participation in addictive social media with certain algorithms and limits underage porn viewing in the state of Florida. Awareness is a powerful force for us to unite and fight with, and we collaborate with organizations, law enforcement, educators, and government leaders like yourselves. The call to action is to support local awareness presentations to equip parents and grandparents on how to protect their children, as 80% of prosecutions now involve online recruitment. Also to learn about and support our healing programs for survivors. And so together, we say not on our watch. And so if you guys can say it loud and proud, 1, 2, 3, not on our watch. So thank you for your time. This concludes my words. So,
I want you to know that Lynn spoke highly of you. I'm going to give you this proclamation.
thank you. Team effort.
The video?
We'll do it after you present that. If you want
Okay.
to present it, you can sit down and watch the video.
Do the video first? Okay. No, do this first.
I think it looks stronger if it's me.
She has a little posse.
We're good. We're good, thank you.
And we now have a short video.
Hi, my name is Hannah Connolly. I'm a graduate from Martin County High School and founder of the first human trafficking awareness program high school. I am here to equip you and give you the tools needed to be protected from predators and traffickers. It is so important to know that all children and teens are at risk. And for your sake and the sake of your friends, this may save a life. Did you know that the average age of girls victimized in trafficking is between 12 and 14 years old? And for a boy, it is 11. Florida is the #3 state in the nation for reported cases of human trafficking. So who is the trafficker? It could be a boyfriend, a gang, an online friend, a neighbor, or even a family member. If you have full access to social media, that means that social media has full access to you. YouTube and many other apps can be used to look through your phone, into your home, and contact you. Dating apps are a large platform that traffickers tend to use. 150,000 brand new escort ads are posted online every day. Children are bought and sold through these dating apps constantly. These are the top games that traffickers use. The trafficker will take up to 2 years to convince a child that they are the same age and want to be a friend. Sexting while still a minor is illegal. The reason it's illegal is that these images may be intercepted by or distributed to someone other than who was originally sent to, compromising the privacy and safety of the original sender. Someone could begin threatening you that if you don't send more graphic pictures of yourself and your body, then they will expose you at school, to your family, and all over social media. Sexting and sextortion is the fastest growing gateway to trafficking.
Hey, if someone wants to show you porn, don't take the bait.
Don't take the bait. Don't take the bait.
Don't take the bait.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
I want y'all to know I'm praying for you guys regularly, and we're grateful for your service to our city.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Madam Mayor, may I have a second?
Yes, please.
I do appreciate Mr. Dobbs coming in, Florida Faith Alliance, providing this information. This problem that we have is hidden from us in the sense of we need the support of external sources to combat child exploitation. A couple of months ago, had an individual walk into my lobby with thousands of pornographic materials, which happened nationwide. So, albeit the legislative body is attacking this, we need to further attack it as a community. With that said, I appreciate it.
I agree.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Going to go into presentation, February Service Awards. The recipient's not here, but we'll give this to him. It's Michael Dacey, 5 years of service with the city of Stewart. I believe Ben is going to be here for a 2024 legislative session update. Thank you, Ben.
Good evening, Commissioners. Ben Hogarth, Community Services Department, for the record. Actually, move this mic really quick. So this year, we're going to go through just a brief timeline. I'm going to try and make it as brief as I can. This year's been a little bit weirder than normal years for the legislature and what's been passed and the timelines and all that. So this year, a lot of the committees started in August, September timeframe, and they've been kind of ongoing before the session started. And starting in January, the 60-day kind of timer started tolling back on the 9th. We're a little over halfway through the session now. Around the 50th day of the session, which will be towards the end of this month on February 27th, you'll see pretty much most of the budget will be wrapped up by then. We'll have a good idea where everything is, and then March 8th is the official last day of the session. And then this year, the governor will have a substantially more time before July 1st to sign the budget and make vetoes, of course. So an overview, this year, more than 1,800 bills were filed, very similar to last year. It was a little over 1,800 then. The year before that, it was, I think, over 3,000. So it's considerably down from a couple of years ago. It's a lot for us to track. There's been a lot of political focuses on social media restrictions for minors, healthcare access. Of course, the homeowners insurance crisis is still ongoing. Homelessness is another focus that came up this year. Of course, that ties into the homeowners insurance issue and affordable housing. There's been kind of a focus on local government term limits. So there's a bill that would limit county commissioner term limits. And then, of course, artificial intelligence is something that's being discussed as well. The staff has tracked over 100 bills that potentially have impacts to the city of Stuart. So for anybody who's listening or watching to this, we're not going over education bills and a lot of other bills that will have local impacts, just not particularly to the city of Stuart operations. So if they're omitted here, it's not for any other reason. Many of the bills that would have had a negative impact that we talked about before the session started have already kind of been tabled or died or been amended and revised, so they're not as harmful. But some of the bills I'm going to go through tonight there's still some serious concerns with them. As far as our requests go, we made 3 appropriation requests, if you remember, last fall. The 3 requests were $1 million each for the septic to sewer connection assistance program, a Memorial Park master plan improvement, and the Guy Davis Community Park revitalization. Thanks, at least in part, to our consultant and certainly our legislators in Tallahassee. We have currently $500,000 for the septic to sewer and Guy Davis Park project right now in the House budget. So let's hope that makes it all the way through the budget process now and through the conference between the Senate and the House, and then, of course, pass the governor's veto pen. So I'm going to focus first on some environmental bills. Some of them I think will have pretty dramatic impact long term. Others are kind of just something to be aware of. The mangrove restoration, I think, is a great thing to keep your eye on for 2 reasons. One is the obvious natural benefit to the ecosystem. By installing and planting mangroves along natural shorelines, you're obviously improving water quality locally. After Hurricane Ian on the West Coast, they also found that mangroves have another almost secondary or tertiary benefit that is, I think, just as important, which is they're wave attenuators, natural wave attenuators. So they limit possible maximum storm surge. So you'll see in some of the bills, the state is kind of refocused on these natural designs because the cost of dune restoration and the cost of other sort of less natural designs are far more expensive long term. So that's just a bill to keep in mind. Mitigation banks. This is just a point of awareness that the state is kind of looking to have local governments be able to install, whether private or public, mitigation banks in their communities. These mitigation banks, of course, used by private developers to kind of offset where they can't currently mitigate water quality in a different basin or in their current basin. So this provides them a secondary option. So it's almost like a market for being able to offset what they're supposed to by law. So that's going through. They'll provide them more opportunities and have governmental entities consider unsolicited proposals from the private entities for the wetland mitigation banks. Environmental management, SB 738, that bill really focuses on stormwater management systems like for side slopes, and that's just to kind of mitigate the runoff that we've had in previous years. So the DEP has been talking to the legislature, and they're trying to figure out more of a holistic review of coastal permitting processes for resiliency purposes, obviously flood mitigation being a big issue as well. So just another point of awareness. The language earlier on in the session contained language that would deter lawsuits against DEP, but that's been revised and amended out thanks to certainly our legislators and of course the Florida League of Cities kind of lobbying. So the Department of Environmental Protection, this is a sizable bill. I've done my best to just give you some very few bullet points about what's going on here. DEP is finally getting enforcement mechanisms to be able to go onto properties to basically do an on-site sewage treatment disposal investigation if they have reasonable cause. So even though I didn't put that on the slide, they have to have reasonable cause. So this is, of course, not just an illegal search and seizure. They need to have some kind of reason to go onto the property. These do not include private residences now, so that's just something to keep in mind that this is kind of a first step. Certain public and private facilities that participate in developing a domestic wastewater treatment plan, they're going to have reasonable assurance that such targets will be met by the entity through plan actions. Now that's something that, again, they weren't very specific on in the past, and enforcement has been sort of evasive in the past. So this will hopefully help with that. And DEP is being directed by the legislature to also develop rules to promote reclaimed water and potable water offset. So this is another thing I think you'll see in years to come is this discussion about reclaimed water. It's not necessarily the same thing as what astronauts drink, but we do need to have more of an open mind about renewable sources of water, especially when conservation and other climatic impacts kind of take effect. You know, if we're in an extreme drought, there might be better options or alternatives that are cheaper long term. So the DEP is kind of looking at that, how to reduce flood risk, and then also we're in the middle right now of doing our vulnerability assessment. So DEP is revising this process again, and they're requiring the use of Florida flood hubs. So just as a point of information awareness, we'll certainly communicate with our consultant who's working on that to kind of get ahead of this if it does pass. So obviously, I'm going to be limited on what I can say here just because of any potential pending litigation regarding PFAS in wastewater. For the public who's not aware of what that is, it's perfluorinated alkyl substances. These are historic contaminations, but historic substances that have been used in manufacturing of textiles and really like carpet stain inhibitors. A lot of surfactants primarily use PFAS in them. And so what's happening here is the federal government and our state government are starting to kind of coalesce around a plan, not just to deal with PFAS that's in the environment that's getting into water systems, some water systems, including like the city of Stewart, which obviously has an exorbitant, substantial cost to remediate and remove. Now we have to start thinking about how PFAS makes its way into wastewater. What that is, it's basically a holistic look at the system. How are we putting PFAS back into the environment through these kind of industrial users who just really have legacy sources of contamination potentially on site or that they use through their reclaimed water. So point is wastewater utilities are kind of being required to notify through this bill DEP, keep up on source monitoring and monitoring of the issue, notify industrial users that they have contamination if discharge limits are exceeded, and the state is certainly starting to set new discharge limits that you can kind of see on this slide here. So 10 nanograms per liter is basically like 10 parts per trillion. Same thing, 170 nanograms per liter for PFOA. So, and the other one that they're starting to look at is dioxane, there on the bottom. And DEP is establishing a 2-year implementation window and regulatory civil criminal penalties for these industrial users. It's important for us just to keep this in the back of our minds when we're thinking about PFAS in the future. We've talked a lot about it in the past on the potable use in water. The wastewater side could potentially be even more expensive to deal with. So it's, this is big money nationwide that's going to have to be spent to remediate this. And the reason why it's so critical that we do is if this pervades into the environment, the longer that we allow it to do so without remediating, the further and further out from potential original points of origin it gets, it compounds the cost over time. So, doing this expeditiously is critical at the federal level and a national level. Utilities and energy bills, municipal, the two first sets of bills here that I have, 104, HB 47, and even HB 1277, they all address kind of surcharge rates that municipalities may charge to customers being serviced outside municipal boundaries for water and sewer. The distinction is that HB 1277 also gets into this annual customer meeting requirement. So the city would fall into this as far as I understand. We do have customers for our water utility and perhaps our sewer utility that are outside of our jurisdiction and boundaries. So 1277 would be requiring us to have an annual customer meeting with them. And the whole point of the meeting is to notify them what their rates are, what the money is being spent on. It's kind of, think of it like almost like a budget workshop of why their money is being spent and what's it being spent on. So thankfully, this bill, which has shown, these bills which have shown up a couple of times in the last couple of years, they've been revised so that it wouldn't affect us too detrimentally. We'd still be able to charge a surcharge to customers that we service outside of our boundaries, because that obviously has a physical kind of cost, administrative cost to doing so, that we're able to recapture. What they changed here in the new language is they only make it that you can't do that if you have a facility that's outside your jurisdiction and boundary. So I don't believe we qualify in that, meaning that we can recapture the surcharge still. But it's just a point of awareness that this is something else that's come up. And then HB 769 revises renewable energy source devices to include biogas as defined in Chapter 366 as renewable natural gas. I wanted this to also be a kind of a point of awareness because not to be confused with like traditional sources of natural gas, biogas is something that wastewater treatment facilities and other systems around the country are looking at as potential revenue sources in the future. Certainly as their costs go up on the wastewater side, being able to recapture some of the gases that are produced both through human and animal biogas deposits and certainly even landfill deposits. Those are, if you're able to capture that, you can turn it into energy, sell it as energy, and that has a revenue potential there. So just something to keep in mind. You might see more of that in the future. SB 1624 and 1645, energy resources. This again goes off of kind of the natural gas idea that's come up in the last couple of years on the national and state level. It basically identifies natural gas as sort of this resiliency facility, which could be owned by public utilities or operated by them for temporary use after an outage or natural disaster. Prohibits local governments from amending a comp plan, land use map, zoning, land development regs, in a manner that conflicts with resiliency facility classification. So this is, as we've talked about, it's hitting a little bit on home rule. It's preempting us from being able to do something, but it's just, again, a point of awareness of where we're limited. The other part of the bill, I think, is a little bit more important. This talks about the Public Service Commission really focusing on public utilities and being able to have a storm reserve, and this gets into our operations. It's going to require a public utility to have a storm reserve amount that's equal or greater than 80% of the utility's highest cost storm, impacting the service area basically from the preceding 5 years, starting in January 2025. So, all of 21, 2, 3, 4, and 2020. So that provides a method for voluntary public utility programs for residential customer-specific. Oh, sorry, that's a different one. The bill also provides the voluntary public utility programs for residential customer-specific electric vehicle charging with revenues from program credited to utilities retail ratepayers. So a positive that we're able to recapture electric vehicle charging revenue if we start a program. The negative is it's only able to be attributed to the utility itself. So we're not an electric utility, but if we decide to get into that program, it'd be very limited. But that's something else that they tucked into the bill. The big focus there is the fourth point, which is operationally, our utility would have to operate in a way that always keeps that reserve, whatever our number would be, and that's something we're going to have to look into on the staff level if it's substantial or not. So Senate Bill 894, provides for a legal authority for the local government bodies to conduct virtual meetings under certain conditions. Don't get too excited here. As we've had fun with Zoom in the past, this is only a maximum of 2 meetings per calendar year, and can't be conducted with anything serious in the sense of quasi-judicial or formal actions on ordinances. So when I was thinking about this, to me, it makes sense if a local government agency wanted to conduct a workshop during the year that was remote, this would provide you kind of a couple opportunities to do that. But that's just something as a point of awareness for the commission. Suits against the government, SB 472. They're abolishing common law doctrine here on home venue privilege. That's something that they tucked into the bill. Not necessarily a big deal for us, but this talks about sovereign immunity claims. What I've gathered from the bill and how they've reworded it this year from the previous few years, and this year it kind of looks on track to pass potentially. So it would revise the sovereign immunity claims to be basically double what they are now. I think it's 200 and 300,000 respectively now, and it would go, I think, to like 400 and 600,000. But the interesting thing is they've added language here that it almost doesn't matter. They provided that a subdivision of the state may elect to settle a claim greater than liability limits unilaterally without legislative action. So all the claims bills that you see in the legislature every year, if we decide to settle a claim ourselves, we don't have to ask them for permission to do so if it's greater than our tort limits. So we'll see if that passes kind of a legal scrutiny long term, but it's just something to keep in mind. And local government actions, SB 1628, revises requirements for business impact estimates for the adoption of local ordinances to no longer provide exemptions for land development regulations. So you might have remembered in the last couple of years, the legislature sort of attacked this idea of local governments being able to adopt local ordinances, for their own reasoning, and they've required local governments to, in certain instances, develop a business impact estimate. And I'm not sure if we've had to do that yet in the city on a policy ordinance, because they exempted emergency ordinances, they exempted almost pretty much every kind of land development or ordinance that would come before us for a development itself. The problem is what this does is anytime that we want to actually change our LDR or LDC, our land development code, we would have to do a business impact estimate, and I'm not even sure what that would look like or how much it would cost and what the feasibility of that is. But that's in this bill this year, and it's something to think about. And development permits and orders would remain exempt from business impact estimate requirements. So that would still be exempt. I just want to be clear, this is really just opening up the door for land development regulation to require a business impact estimate. 328, SB 328, we all remember this from last month. The City Commission adopted a resolution in support, there's a typo there, it was 12-2024, in support of SB 328. The bill has been modified since, but it still, for the most part, follows kind of everything that we supported. It's just important to remember here that there's a couple of differences. They've revised the bill to now prohibit us from prohibiting an affordable housing development from being any less than 100 or any more than any less than 150% of the highest allowed in the city for the floor area ratio. So in other words, if there's an allowed density on the residential development, we can't restrict it to be less than that. So it's almost like giving them a right of 150% of the highest allowed throughout the whole city. The height restrictions that we talked about previously, that's still 150% of the tallest adjacent building under certain conditions. They revised the parking language to now force local governments to reduce parking development requirements by 20% if that development's within half a mile of a major transportation hub, so long as there's parking available within 600 feet. And so I don't really know what that means. It's very loose, open language, but something to be mindful of. And then the airport or the runway related exemptions from the building height provisions are still in there, which is what we really liked. It's been revised in language. We need to analyze it a little bit more as far as how the 10,000 feet apply, but I think this is still a good bill and still something that meets what we were discussing last year, or last month, I should say. HB 267, dealing with building regulations. Don't want to spend too much time on it. The application process that was revised in the last couple of years is being revised again. And this is anytime an applicant comes in requesting whatever it is, just some kind of building development or, retooling their property, whatever it is, they're making it more concise as far as what each type of applicant needs to do and how long they have to do it. So the bill's rather extensive. Just the important takeaway is that these amount of business days is what the applicants are going to be required if they fit into that category. So 30, 15, 10 business days, and 60 business days for multifamily residential units. Again, this is kind of a hits at home rule, but it's something that we really need to keep our eye on. It'll certainly affect the development process to a degree. The city is pretty good at expediting applications, but it's just important to remember that these are changing constantly, so we might have to evolve the same way. There's a 5 business day after receipt, written notice is required for all these applications to at least state or advise to the applicant that their application is sufficiently complete. So, I'm not a planner, and to me that says, I have to have figured out in 5 business days whether their application is materially complete. I don't know in the 30 business days that you normally would have how long it takes to do that for each application, but 5, it's almost like adding an arbitrary 5 business day expedited notification to each applicant, and it's like locking it all to 5 business days. So that's just a point of concern, and there's other provisions and notices in the bill that we need to take a look at. So that's another one that staff has its eye on, that expands on previous years. HB 1221, land use and development. I believe this is my big one. This bill, 2 different slides just to even bullet point what's in it. I think this is the most substantial change that I've seen this year on the land use side. The state's redefining what infill is, urban service area, urban sprawl, especially when you think of like the city, between the city and the county, and how urban sprawl kind of like works as you get out to Palm City in the area here. They've taken previous language that we considered bad language and potentially harmful language in the past, and they've added it to this bill this year. And it's not a surprise. It's what they're essentially doing is they're requiring developers to, this is the good part, is to qualify their changes on quantitative data, but they're prohibiting municipalities from requiring a particular professionally accepted methodology. So what does that mean? To me, it says what you can't do is question their methodology. So that's potentially a problem if their methodology is potentially questionable. So it's something to think about, something to be mindful of. The legislatures add that in there. It's very loose language. One other thing they did was they prohibited comp plans from restricting density, intensity, and optional elements that are already established in the future land use element. So if you are, as a commission, for example, making a change and the intent is to restrict or to change density and intensity, don't put it in optional elements. Make sure it's in the future land use element. So that's something to be aware of. And comp plan amendments to include the amount of land located outside the service area. That's a new consideration that they've added here. And land development regulations are now required to establish minimum lot sizes within single-family, two-family townhome zoning district to accommodate maximum density authorized within the comp plan. And this is where it gets a little confusing. Net of the land area required to be set aside for things like subdivision roads, sidewalks, ponds, buffers, et cetera. So what they're trying to do here is make more land within that development, that PUD, that whatever, be more towards the actual building development than these other additions that make it pretty, that make it walkable, that make it more of a holistic city. So, we might look at that as a negative change from a planning aspect. And then the last point here is to provide applications for infill development must be administratively approved without the need of a comprehensive plan amendment, rezoning, or variance if the proposed infill development has the same or less gross density as the existing development and is consistent with development standards. So again, it's taking more power away from the local government to amend or change developments and more to straight administrative approval, kind of like what we saw with 102. This has just got more broad applications because it's not exclusive to 102 type developments. SB 609. Local business taxes, this was one of the ones I was hoping that our finance director would be sitting in his chair for when I got to it. It's enshrining the 2023-2024 base year for local business tax revenue generation. That means that this fiscal year, as we stand now, all dollars collected through the business tax as a revenue, as generation for us, freeze for every year from now in perpetuity in the future. We can collect from more businesses. We're supposed to adjust the rate, but regardless, whatever doesn't get adjusted, whatever we collect in and over the amount that we collect this fiscal year, that has to be refunded. We are not allowed through this bill to collect any more.
The gross amount received, even if we had 30% more businesses.
Correct. That would mean that if the city next year had 1,000 more businesses, I mean, that's a lot, but let's say we had 100 more businesses next year, that means that we can't collect more money, but each business, their share, their dollar amount would go down, right? Because it gets spread across more businesses. So that's something that might be aware of. I don't know if the Florida League of Cities has been blowing this up into emails and flare emails. I saw this and I said it's something that we really need to take a look at. The only thing that they've exempted from these new provisions are models, business tax levies that only base it on gross receipts. So if you have like a uniform model that only deals with like the business type and this type of business gets charged this amount, that's different than, as far as my understanding goes, is like charging them based on their gross receipts. So that type of model is apparently exempt in this, and I'm not enough of an expert to know why they exempted that, but I believe our model would not be exempt, and that's important to think about and talk about in the future. And of course, there's a financial reporting and audit provision added on top of this. In the last bill, just as, again, another just point of awareness, vacation rentals. It's not something necessarily we've had a huge problem with in the city, but it has been a point that's been brought up in the past. Airbnbs do have advertising platforms. The state's trying to make a way to collect and remit taxes from those advertisements and those, if you want to call them sales, points of sale. The taxes would be collected by the local tax collector, so it would be up to the locals to obviously remit that appropriately. And the local government can still develop a registration program, and there's too many, it's a litany of requirements and procedures that I didn't want to list here. But we're only allowed to, at the first time, get $150 per rental unit that's registering, and I believe it's $50 every year thereafter for each existing on the book rental unit. So it is a potential revenue generator. I don't know what ours would be. That would take too long to kind of go into for today. And there's other requirements, but it's just something to be mindful of. They're preempting us on everything right now on vacation rentals except for this whole registration program. So that's it for the update for today. If any commissioners, anybody has any questions for me? Yes, sir.
Any questions? Yes, go.
Hey, I was actually going to bring this up in my commissioner comments, but I think this is probably a better time. Ben, have you looked at House Bill 1317? It's a bill that, and they just revised it on February 1st, looking at studying the elimination of property taxes.
That I haven't seen. I saw the homestead bills, which pretty much got tabled in earlier last month, but this one I haven't looked at.
Yeah, in fact, it's actually just a study, but they literally want to study, and they want to replace it with a consumption tax, which I'm not even sure what they mean by that. But I certainly think that's something that we need to just, again, they're not looking to do it right now. I know I sent the article to Mr. Mortel, who I believe sent it to Jolie. I think Jolie probably popped a gasket, I don't know. But that is certainly something that we definitely want to look at. If that's the direction they're going, obviously they have to come up with a replacement for local tax, but it certainly seems that it could make it very difficult for us to meet our obligations in the future if they come up with some sort of formula for a consumption tax. I don't know. Again, I'm not even sure what that would be, but just probably keep an eye on that. So,
I
And
appreciate
that's
it.
13, that's House Bill 1317. I don't know what the Senate companion bill, but I believe there is one because the article references some comments coming out of the Senate.
I'll be sure to add it, Commissioner, and this goes for all the commissioners. If you do have a bill that's, that you've been alerted to, we'd be happy to look into if we didn't list it tonight. It's not an exhaustive list I went through tonight, and these are only the bills that I've seen that are actually moving through the process. It would take me too long to go through the litany that were filed that we've been watching.
Commissioner
Madam
Clark?
Mayor,
Yes, go ahead, Clem.
okay. I just have two comments, I don't know. I just wanted to, I'm thinking what would be reasonable cause when you have like large properties, like a large farm, 4,000, 6,000 acres in Central Florida or along the Swanee River or the St. Johns River or somewhere, and you have dumping or something going on in the middle of that property. It takes time for those things to seep into the underground water and for things to happen. I wish if there was something, and I haven't read the bill, either in that bill or somewhere else, if they had put up standards like, let's inspect X like once a year, once every 2 years, then that way you would be able to at least go on the property and inspect certain key points or whatever and know what's happening. To say that reasonable cause and, you know, you have large areas and outfall all over, Swanee, St. Johns River, Lake Okeechobee, just a few examples. I mean, that's to me is like a big red flag that says we're turning a blind eye. You know, I don't know how helpful that rule is, and to say that DP can go in there if there's reasonable cause. So unless there's some big nasty outfall going on somewhere, that's obvious. I don't know, when you have things that's causing seepage that will be, you know, showing up years later, if we had a system where we could inspect, whether it's farmlands or whatever the type of industry or whatever it is, that's kind of interesting to me. But it seems like it's a step forward, but to me, it's like, when, you know, when does reasonable occur and who does it? Is there some little person hiding out to check out things on, you know, so anyhow, I just thought that if there were guidelines set to inspect certain properties or factories or whatever the rules are, whether under NEPA or under, I don't know, it just seems strange. The other one was about the, I guess, is it elected officials meeting remote or having workshops? I thought that we could do some things already if we advertise it, because I know that our city of Stewart in the past had had a remote workshop, like a retreat or something. And I'm wondering how, if this, I thought that we could still
That was through
meet.
COVID,
What is the
yeah.
difference with this?
The Jupiter Island Board voted a few years ago to allow their commissioners to appear at the meetings remotely and to vote at those meetings. The City Commission Board historically has taken a different approach and voted that commissioners could not appear at the meetings remotely. The commission could change that at any time if they were inclined to, by essentially seeking to amend the charter and having the issue addressed at the charter. Like, for example, if it was this year and the commission wanted to put together some rules that said a commissioner could miss up to 2 meetings and appear by Zoom and still vote at those meetings by Zoom, they could add that to the charter. We could put it on the November referendum and the public could vote on it. It'd probably pass because it wouldn't be a miss every meeting thing. And quite frankly, the value to the community is better than having no one present. For example, if a commissioner is going to be out of town, they're going to miss the meeting. So the benefit of having 5 people and 5 different responses, even if one is by Zoom and able to vote, is still better for the community than only having 4 at that meeting. Because in theory, the commissioner is not going to be at that meeting if we don't allow it anyway. So they're going to be absent for whatever the reason is that caused the absentee. But it's a policy decision, and obviously it loses scale if it becomes every meeting no one's present and the public is sitting here and there's no one sitting at the dais. So you obviously would have to figure out some parameters on something like that.
But if that went through, if we just followed the state statute, we wouldn't have to do anything locally?
The state, during COVID, started it, but passed some laws that allowed meetings to be absent. And I know there were some cabinet meetings last year unrelated to COVID, when the cabinet members were not in the room, and the public was there, and the hearings happened by Zoom.
Now, is the problem that because of AI now, that we may have some problems if people try to do more things by Zoom, or
It doesn't have, AI has
somebody
zero
could
to do with it.
impersonate somebody electronically? I don't know.
I mean, I would assume, for example, if you weren't going to be here, you would tell us in advance, and then if you appeared on Zoom and then there was another Commissioner Clark on Zoom, we'd have like an AI one, and we'd have to debate it. But in theory, it would actually be you that would appear. But obviously, if it was an isolated event or two meetings, the benefit to the city of, if in fact you broke your leg and couldn't come to the meeting, but you could appear from Zoom from home, the benefit to the voters that you could continue to participate and express your vote would be better than you simply not appearing at all and not being present in the meeting. So it'd be a policy for the commission, and essentially the state law allows that to happen. It's just that our charter doesn't allow it to happen at the current time.
If we wanted to do that now, could we ask you to look into that and bring back something for a charter
Sure.
consideration?
Sure. Lee would be happy to.
I'm already working on many other code amendments, so I'm
But,
already
yeah.
in that mood.
And obviously, a charter amendment's different than a code amendment because it would require referendum language. We could bring it back next meeting.
Any commissioners have any other question?
For Ben, no.
Thank you, Mr. Hogarth. That was a great presentation.
Thank you, everybody, for everybody who's still awake. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our next presentation, open government presentation, Jolie. Thank you, sir.
Evening, Commissioners. Hopefully my presentation is not as abysmal. So here we are this evening. What we're talking about, the city manager asked me to present some of the features of the OpenGov product. The city, unbeknownst to you possibly, the city's been on the same basic software system for about 30-plus years. So in the background, it was running not only, issuing a purchase order and cutting the AP checks, but it was also the utility billing software, the permitting software, the stuff that we did the fire safety inspections in. So back 2 years ago, we went out and scouted some software systems, and we decided on the OpenGov product. And so not only is the OpenGov product what we switched to do the accounting, but there's quite a few other options that the OpenGov product offers to the staff and the citizens as well. So first thing I want to do is just highlight actually the budget itself. So on the city's budget site, you can go to the financial services and click on the Stewart budget. Now, we also presented the 2023 budget this way, but this is the 2024 budget. The city, and you'll see this photo here is the background we picked. I understand Commissioner McDonald provided this photo for us here in the banner. And so what this is the budget is entirely paperless. And when I say paperless, we didn't even do a PDF. The budget is completely compiled electronically, put together, and presented with a table of contents and the reports and everything, 100% out of this product that the taxpayers have purchased. And we did win the International Budget Presentation Award for last year's digital budget. It's in this, you'll see a copy of it in this one. And so basically, the citizen or the user who goes to the website can find the city's operating budget for 2024, as well as our capital improvement plan. You'll see that there's a table of contents here with hyperactive links everywhere. Add some things, we've broken up the departments into different funds that they belong to. Some staff is not always familiar with where it's at. we provide information about what the budget is. And then, oh, looky, here's some photos of our elected officials, little statements about them. This is the board makeup at the time the budget was adopted and issued. Okay, so I know that the seats have changed, but for the adoption of the budget, it's who was in the seat at the time they got voted on. And here's the copy of the presentation we received for last year's completely digital budget as well. We expect and hope to win the award again this year for the '24 budget.
Ben, Jolie, you did that. Thank you.
Well, oh,
You
no, ma'am, no. I just, as I've said many times, I'm your cook, I'm not
I
your
know.
doctor. The departments
I
are,
know.
the departments are chunking potatoes and carrots and everything into the pot, and I just stew it, that's all. So the departments provide all this information to us. Now, some of the highlights I'd want to show you as far as information available. So back up here under the table of contents, you may see that we provide, let's say you want to find out about ad valorem in the city. Here we provide the various taxable values, taxable value history of the city. Also the ad valorem taxes generated. This is the change in taxable value. For those of you who can't see, this is that 2008 to 2014 timeframe where the values were negative, or the increase, the value dropped, so the increase was a negative increase. And here's our history of millages. You'll see the city has a nice rich history of set it and forget it millages, and we've been running at this 5 mills for the last several years now. When you return to the main page also, you may see that here's our strategic goals and long-range plans. So these are the recent document that Jim Krulski put together with the outside consultant and presented to the commission that they reviewed and adopted. These are those goals, as well as how it'll be used. But also, you'll see that because it's a digital budget and not an actual PDF or paper, you can click right here and go right to the actual adopted plan that we looked at, the 15-page document with everything that was adopted by the commission. So it's interactive, one-stop shopping. The citizen or the user of the document can get right to what they want. Also, along the way, we provide other things such as the debt of the city. So for those of you who are interested, this is all the debt owed by the city of Stuart out to the year 2041. This is, by the year. This is principal payments, as you'll see. They as your own personal loans do. And then there's the interest. That's what it should look like. It should taper off. This is how much we owe to each of our creditors, the State Revolving Fund, Truist Bank, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America. And then here's the debt service by year by fund. And then down here we give an in-depth description of what those bond issues and loans were for, where they go. And so you can see at your, and as you point to them, you'll get a little different stuff. So for those of you, here's Courthouse Commons, otherwise known as City Hall 2, Wells Fargo. So as you point to it, you'll find out where that is, when it ends. And then also the departments, say for example, the Fire Rescue Department. When you drill to their fund, you'll get a little explanation of the department and its background. You'll get their goals and objectives for the coming year. Here's their performance measures, but then we also have digitally collected the number of rescue calls by year, which is graphed out. And you can see as we talk about building Station 3 to address the call need, I believe it was Chief Felicione who mentioned that building Station 3 basically got us to where the call volume was back in 2018, not where it is today. And then also you can see there's an interactive display for each one of the expense categories of this department, as well as the line item detail of their budgets. We have included what they requested, what the manager recommended, and what the commission adopted. And then also a detailed counting of the staff there. And you can see that this is a 62.5 positions because they actually share a position. One of the innovations the HR department did was started to share positions between departments. So that helps. And then, as you can say, this is filled with all kinds of statistical information. If you were curious about who the largest employers in the city are and who pays the most in taxes, that kind of thing. So I would invite anyone and everyone to drill into this. You can see, you can go directly to an entire funds makeup of the water sewer fund, its revenue sources, and its overall expenditures by department, and its total positions in that department. Now, short of any specific things, what I wanted to tell you is that OpenGov also offers us some other features. Some of those is, earlier, Ben was talking about these development applications. And so OpenGov also gives us a public-facing side where now citizens and users can apply for permits online. And in that product, I know that Jody's working on getting it down to her industry specifics. But basically, they are able to address these deadlines of responding to the applicants within a number of days. They can route the application correctly to the different people who need to view it based on the logic. But you can see here at our website, we've already incorporated for you to click, citizens can click and pay their ambulance bills with the city. They can also click here and pay those other services that haven't been moved to OpenGov yet. So for example, fire safety inspections will be going live next week on OpenGov, so that would be another link here. Also, you have the building and permitting department where you can register your alarm system, apply for a building permit, or register as a contractor. And then we have the business tax page where you can do a business tax if you're an out-of-state insurance or if you're closing it. And then when you go in here, you'll see that there's somewhat of an interactive page with helpful PDFs for you to view or download, and also little Q&As that the user can click on and get the answers they need, and then click here and directly go into applying online. And it's now an interactive kind of logic to the question about the AI. If you are requesting to build a restaurant, it knows to route that request to someone to check for a grease trap or the inspections related to that. And we will be able to provide this. I have to say the police department, who were on a different system than the rest of us, they've actually adopted this wholeheartedly. You can now schedule your off-duty details, register your golf cart, including an inspection of the golf cart, pay your parking tickets, and even make public records requests through the police department's point. Also, to that, OpenGov offers what they call their transparency portal. And so out here in this transparency portal, we can begin to track how many people are coming to the website, any engagement kind of comments they left. And then we have stories and reports that are out here available for people to drill into. And what that looks like is when you go into the transparency portal, citizens would see they have different reports that we've made available to them, and they can have stories. So they can jump straight to the 23 budget from here, or they could go to the 24 budget from here. They can also go to these reports, and let's say here's their interactive report of revenues and expenses from any one of these years that they click on. As you drag the dial over, the numbers change to display a different graph. The user can get a little curious if they want and break it into different models. We have this. Also, here's the metrics. So if you wanted to come in here and click and say, I don't know how many building inspections, here's the history of building inspection activity at the city from, 2013 to, this past fiscal year that we have. And then a couple fun ones I've put out there for people. How much does my property tax pay in this budget? This is your property tax that we collect from you. This is how much public safety costs. When you beat this column, then you might get over here to paying my salary. As I've heard over the years, many times, young man, I pay your salary. I'm like, okay, well, after you pay for the police and fire, then you can come see me. So and users can drill into this and pick different looks that they want. And now the latest one that I have brought to the city manager's attention is what they call the community feedback product. And I know there's going to be a lot of interest in this, but it's not ready for prime time yet, so I don't expect to see 50 emails tomorrow asking for these. But I took the liberty of calling it the Stewart Wave because they encourage you to name it something. And so this is a community engagement website where the city could make announcements and subscribers would receive alerts to these announcements. If they've signed up and registered with the Stewart Wave, they could receive announcements that were posted here. Everything from just the Apple, dunking contest to, there's an emergency alert. We could actually take surveys and people could sign up for tags that they want to follow. But you can also have them sign up, sign the document of what our civility clause is or what the registration limits are. And a third party, so not the Stewart staff, a third party would read comments and posts from the public and determine their civility level, and then work with them to try and get it cleaned up. And if it was protected speech and the author wasn't willing to amend the statement, we would simply post it as a uncontested statement. But you can do some fun things like this, along with hosting meetings. You can also do things like take surveys. So do you have a moment to take a quick survey? And then you could say, yeah, I want to take the survey. And how would you prioritize food, shelter, clothing, and happiness? And we would collect these statements from them. We could also, yes,
I wanted to ask you, is that for the citizens, all of us of Stewart, the city?
the benefit to
But
this.
not the county?
Well, the benefit to this is that the applicants, when they register, their email address and address is verified.
Okay,
So we've done these MailChimp surveys or SurveyMonkey in the past.
good, very
And
good.
there were things where 80% of the respondents were from another state. They just felt like getting involved in our business.
Yes.
I know when we ask about fluoride in the water, whoo, we get statements from Peru. But this would definitely tell you who from your community voted and what their answers were versus outside the community. You could also, they have the fun things like, how would you like to allocate your widgets? So we have this much dollars. How would you like to allocate them to these programs? Or where would you like to put them, either dollars or percentages? We can also do the, what does the city do right kind of survey? And so, the respondents claim it, like the city keeps the harbor free of pirates. I really try to do non-inflammatory things for this demonstration. Can pigs fly? Your position, yes, no, neutral, maybe. And then lastly, something like, we've tried over the past to get photos for the annual calendar or for the budget cover book. You can actually do this where you would be able to submit you could ask citizens, and then citizens can upvote them and like the photos. You can also do that on comments. You could upvote comments or ideas. You could do an idea engine, including a map. You can point on the map and put your little pin on the map and then have other users upvote that. So at some point, we plan to turn staff loose on this, on collecting the data from the public directly on where they see the direction of the city going. So the OpenGov product is comprehensive across, we're using it day-to-day downstairs to cut checks and issue POs. Contractors are registering, and then that's feeding into their building permit applications, their business. We're going to be running all the inspections out of UNE and Public Works out of this, as well as, the financial reporting that goes out. And the beauty of that is, as these transactions happen, it is automated. So that report is near time, soon to be real time actually, but near time. So the next morning, that report that I showed you on the portal is up to date. So there's no more waiting for finance to issue the report or, making a public record request to finance to say, where's this revenue and expense from last year? It's there. So we do make a distinction between what's audited or not. So we're certainly trying to make use of the system, and it's coming along very well. Are there any questions?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Commissioner Clark?
So that, our business tax receipt, little glitch that we had at last year to now, is that all resolved now? The whole system is able to go clearly through for new people who are coming in or want to pay their annual business tax?
Commissioner, I would say the problem is not new businesses and new respondents. The new businesses and new respondents are prompted with the system from the fresh start. They answer the questions for the first time, and the logic walks them through the boxes they need to check and whatnot, and it takes them right to the point of paying and issuing their license to them at home, which they can print. The problem were the legacy businesses that were ported over from the 30-year-old system into the new system. Those new fancy questions and all the buttons and features aren't set up for an existing business, and it's what we like to refer to in the IT business as a PEBCAC. The problem exists between the keyboard and the chair. So the users didn't fill out the boxes that they needed to renew their business tax and open up their business. And so a lot of those fields are left empty. And I know right now that the business tax staff is trying to work through this problem with the legacy businesses to get them renewed on the system. Once they are established and renewed in OpenGov, next year's business tax renewal would simply be an email. Have you changed your business? Yes, no. Do you still have the same number of seats in your restaurant? Yep, okay, thanks. Click. You owe $100, pay your business tax.
Madam Mayor, sorry. So, with the same update of the OpenGov system, how are we doing on the small-scale development and fast-tracking, building permit and so on? Is that online, is that on target and working
Well-
well in the past year, 2.5 years that we're trying to get this thing done?
I'm not going to speak for Jody up in Development Department, but I will say this is my understanding prior to this. The City of Stewart already had an exceptionally fast development approval process. And several of the limits that have been proposed in these bill changes, the City of Stewart was already under. So all we're doing now is getting this electronic system to meet that. But yes, if there was something like that bill's requirement of within 5 days, they have to know that their application is complete. Doesn't mean that your application has been approved and you're ready to go to construction. Just means you've checked all the boxes and you've submitted a good application. There's actually a lot of back and forth time where you're just trying to get them to check all the boxes they need to check or upload all the documents they need to upload. So yes, this OpenGov system is very interactive with the due dates and respondent times and things like that of it, routing it to staff. Your application's never going to just sit empty on someone's desk that's sick, at the bottom of their inbox now. It's going to be alerting people, and I believe the speed from application to processing is going to increase. It's up to Jody and her staff about how they organize it for their industry, but I know that they are definitely making sure it meets those standards, if not best practices even.
Madam Mayor, one more, I'm sorry.
Yes, no.
Apart from when we get letters and emails and personal complaints from residents regarding how we function as a commission or how staff is responding to them, do we have someone, whether it's IT or something, that's looking at complaints that come in with regard to our system so we know when we're having problems in a particular area?
We don't generally get complaints related to the software operations of the budget. When we get complaints from people related to traffic or related to a pothole or related to isolated events, we take them into the city and we provide a copy to the respective department that the issue may be related to, and either myself or sometimes the commission or the department director will address whatever that issue might be. But I don't think I've ever seen a complaint or comment from a member of the public like related to OpenGov or related to our email system or our public records programs or anything.
Yeah, and sorry, and Mayor Bruna talked about people out of town, and I was wondering where the slippery slope stops when we have comments coming in, and you said that there was a relationship with IT that could distinguish certain things, because when we have people who might, just flood the place with a lot of things, I just wanted to try to figure out if we actually have a way to clearly do that now.
We are not flooded with complaints. I mean, honestly, the community will let us know if they have a concern, but overall, the experience we have is that most people are actually pretty happy with the services they're receiving.
If they would send us letters like that, we'd be glad. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
No, thank
Great presentation.
Thank you, Joey.
OpenGov. All right, now I'm going to see if any of the commissioners have a comment.
You want to start with Eula, or?
Yeah, Eula,
Oh,
please,
okay,
please,
then.
Commissioner.
Ms. Commissioner McNall must have known that I have like 85 things to talk about, so. First, Madam Mayor, I'd like to pull item number 14 to just ask about, our milling program and just to maybe have our Public Works Department just kind of talk to us personally, even though that is on there for just award for a certain amount, but just maybe to tell us a little bit more about milling in general and how we come up with all these road segments to do that. So I'd like to ask that. I don't know if it's Mr. Cunin or Mr. Leggett, but just to kind of talk about that. So if I'd like to pull that. The other thing is on the 17th, the city of Stewart will be like hopping, I guess. We have the open day for the North County Little League on Martin Luther King. We have a African American Soul Food Festival on Martin Luther King. We have the Black Heritage Festival at the 10th Street, and we have the Women's Club having 110th, it says, I guess, celebration. It's more than a centennial. It's 110 at the Women's Club in the afternoon on the 17th. And I know the Women's Club has asked me to ask the City Commission to go on the website and to make sure that they get themselves involved with RSVPing and attending this program. So I'd like for the city to do that. I mean, our commissioners to do that.
We're 100, the Women's Club is 110 years old.
Yes, yes. And they were involved with the hospital, with a lot of formation of our city, because they started before the city itself. Well, I don't know, Troy, you must know. 2024 is, we've done 100, we're all 110. We're all in the 110 range. Yeah, from, because 2014, we're at 100, so everybody's at 110. So we're all in the same range. And they were very, very helpful in the formation and work with our city. The county is doing their 100th centennial in 2025, and they're in the planning for that, and they have a website. I've gone to the website, and it looks like they want organizations to contact them or to say what they're doing, and I'm not sure exactly how their planning committee is working, but I'd like you for a commission, and if we have to vote on it, to ask our city manager to talk to the county. We are the county seat, to see what it is that the city of Stewart can do to make sure that we all have a wonderful centennial for Martin County, which was done in 1925 when Governor Martin was governor. So I don't know if we need to vote or if Mr. Mortel can just kind of tell us if he's even had any contact with the county when he comes up on his presentation. With regard to, I just mentioned Martin Luther King, residents and some folks have asked me, and I've talked to Commissioner Hetherington, who is our district commissioner, with regard to doing crosswalks, markings at the intersection of Martin Luther King and Palm Beach Road. We have a large intersection at East Ocean and Palm Beach Road. We have a huge intersection at 10th Street and Palm Beach Road because the school is there. And there's a lot of crossings back and forth. There's no traffic light there at Martin Luther King Boulevard and 7th Street and Palm Beach Road, right by the Audubon, and where those new homes have been built on the corner there. So I'm hoping that we can follow up with the county and see what it is that they can do to help work with putting some markings there for people who are walking across or bicyclists, or just to make sure that people are careful in that area of our city. I also wanted to ask about something that was brought up by Mr. Hogarth, and also by Mr. or finance person, when we're talking about measuring how things happen at the city. And I know with regard to development and Senate Bill 102 and just doing annual appraisal and report on the comprehensive plan and other changes, we have not been having too many workshops. I know when we had new commissioners come on, we talked about doing, the zoning in progress, and we kind of slowed down. But we still haven't really talked about future plans and policies, whether it's more things to do with historic preservation or to do with how we can ensure that we don't have excessive or any gentrification in areas like East Stewart, even though we've adopted the code. So I'm asking if we could have the city manager look into coming up with a system where maybe we can ask our development director to at least once a month pick a topic from the comp plan or something that's affecting us. The last time we had a decision to make with regard to a restaurant possibility that was at the corner of Colorado and Seminole, where it was, dealing with the old historic downtown. We also had issues when we were looking at redevelopment along Colorado. And so if we could just pick certain issues or certain things related to the comp plan, that maybe if in the future we do need to look at these things and possibly make some policies to go forward, whether something needs to be included in a referendum or if we need to have that policy. But I think if we don't have a regular presentation on something, and we may think it's simple, but it could spark some conversation, that if we could get that from our development department, if our city manager could work that through and see how we can best educate ourselves and educate our commissioners about what is exactly in the comp plan. And when we have things coming up like conditional use approval or land use amendments, that we know that we're not going against anything, we're just doing what we need to do to make sure that we're trying to follow and to deal with what residents have, the circumstances and situation of their properties and their businesses. So I just wanted to bring that up. The other thing is that the county, I think, is having a half-cent sales tax. I had this conversation, but it's been a little while. Mr. Mortelli might want to bring that up. And it's going to be countywide, but when that money comes into the city, I don't think that there's any limit on what we can do with it. And so again, those are things that we can look at with some policies of what we want to do, how we want to, maybe if we know that we're going to get that, especially if that passes, that we could start looking on trying to put out some way to maybe start something, a bond issue or whatever, so that we
The
can have
state-
monies up front
The
to do
state,
something.
The state prohibits us, it's against the law now for us to lobby. Tonight, we have an agenda item as a resolution to just support the county to
Right,
seek
right.
the thing, and then I will bring back
When
an
it,
agenda
if
item.
anything is approved,
Right.
then we'll work with it.
That would
But
be in
those are some of
November.
the examples that I said that we need to look at. If it's approved, then that's something that we can work on. What else is there? Nothing, just that code review and the workshops to get us more into, if it's even to take every chapter of the comp plan and go over it and make sure that our commissioners are aware of what is there. And we may not do everything in detail, but I think we need to do that so that we don't make any missteps and have any lawsuits when people start redeveloping or developing. Thank you very much. I did say, Mr. Gordon mentioned about the festival, but I did mention it. And Miss Dooley, I'm sorry that Miss Dooley couldn't be here, but she wanted me to make sure that I mentioned the festival coming up this weekend.
Mr. Commissioner?
Yes. So I'll just start off by responding to what you're saying, and that I don't need, I can't speak for any of the other commissioners, new or that have been established here, but I don't personally need Jody to come up and pick topics about, what we can or can't vote on with regard to whatever. She has enough to do. And we have two attorneys at our disposal that we can go down the rabbit hole with land use and, what's allowable in terms of how we vote. But the main topic I wanted to touch on was water. I know there's been a lot of excitement recently with the ribbon cutting for the STA that's adjacent to the EAA reservoir. But a little more recently, I was discouraged to hear, and Chad Gillis, who writes for Fort Myers News Press, this was shared by Gil and Votewater, but he had reported, and this quote is pretty hard to hear, but large-scale Lake Okeechobee discharges are likely a few weeks away, and that was including to the east. So I have a bit of an ask from you guys if you would be open to it, but I would like for us, formally as a city, as a board, to, if you were open to it, write a letter. With that potentially building up, there had been one conversation from Major Bell at the last Rivers Coalition meeting that, we're not looking at discharges, and now it seems like there may be a pivot. So I just wanted to ask if the rest of you were open to it. Just, nothing aggressive, but if we would be open to writing a letter to the Army Corps, drafting something up that's requesting for them to exhaust all possible options for getting water off of that lake before they're considering going east, and tactfully, thanking them for their commitment to, human health, water quality, the biodiversity of our estuary. I'm sure Ben could come up with great words, but so something formally, if you all would be open to it, but also personally. It's not like the old days where maybe only one of us could have the Army Corps' number. I know they're very open to communication from all of us and are happy to text and call and talk to any of us. So with that potentially lining up, I would just like to encourage all of us to reach out to Major Bell, text, call, and just let them know how we all feel here, and that we would very much appreciate exhausting, again, every possible option for getting water off of the lake besides sending it out to the east. So with that was all.
That's it?
Thank you.
Thank
Yes.
Anyone else? Any other commissioner?
Does Commissioner Rich want to go first?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Rich. Commissioner Rich.
Well, I will respond to the comments by Commissioner Collins, because a few weeks ago I attended the Everglades Conference, co-chaired by Martin County's own Mark Perry, and 450 attendees, the board of SF, South Florida Water Management District, all the colonels, all the majors. And one of the reasons I'm happy to go is because every opportunity I have to speak to these gentlemen, I convey that there's nothing more important to the citizens of Stewart than the quality of our water. And to poison our water is to kill our community. And they understand that. We've all done a good job. I'll give us all credit for attending the Rivers Coalition meeting. They know we're making every effort to stay well informed. They know and they know we care a great deal. And they have, although not formally adopted LOSUM. Do we have an approximate date, Ben? No, unfortunately.
Sorry, just for the record. What the Corps told us earlier this year, and we were expecting at the end of last year, by December, for it to be in effect already. But because of other constraints that they're dealing with on the legal side, it might not be until sometime later this year that it's actually rolled into effect. So that goes to kind of what Commissioner Collins was saying about this potential for discharges. They're still operating and forced to operate by law under LORS 08 currently. Only thankfully with these relationships that we've built over the last few years with the Army Corps, they've graciously helped by trying to manage the lake as close to what LOSUM would be as possible. But because of the El Nino effect this year, which we're praying is starting to actually fade very quickly right now, unfortunately, that's dumped enough water late enough in the system in the season. So
Right.
we'll see. But
They seem to have made a consistent effort, though, to abide by LOSUM, although not formally adopted. But yeah, it's a difficult situation right now. I actually did attend the opening of the STA, and I was there with John Mayle from Martin County. There were about 100 people there, and the only person who didn't seem to know John Mayle was the governor. And it was very impressive. And this sort of goes to the agenda item we have later is, so, what can we do? We can complain, we can be in their face, we can be well-informed. I have no objection to sending them a formal letter or with a proclamation. But we also can work with the county, and I think that's a very valuable relationship for both sides, to do whatever we can to make the situation better. We have the opportunity tonight with this proposal. We're doing living shorelines. We're keeping as much water out of the river as we can, and that's that's what we can do at this point in time. But unfortunately, there's just too much. 16 and a half almost, right, Ben?
yeah, and the issue, so what we said in previous years, and this is good edification for the community to remember too, that when LOSUM first started, we first started telling the Army Corps by June 1st every year, we, the city, would like to see that lake as close to 11 feet as possible. And the whole mindset behind that is, in the worst water year, you would see up to 6-7 feet of water dumped on that lake, and we want to be able to make sure there was enough time by the time the wet season ended to the next dry season that lake would be low enough again where we could just mitigate when and how much in the way of discharges we would get. The problem is that we're at, I think in the last 20 years, probably one of the highest points on the lake elevation as we've been this time of the year. And that's concerning on one hand, because obviously we could see a massive volume of discharges in a short amount of time, because they would need to evacuate that water from the lake in a short amount of time if there is an early start to the tropical season. So that's a concern. But the lake, with those levees that have been built and the dike that's been built over the last 10 plus years, however long it took them, they're confident that the lake can withstand longer over a higher elevation for a longer period of time. But our concern again is the higher that lake gets, the longer duration we're going to have for high volume discharges.
I mean, we're
regardless
not,
of LG.
we're not asking much. All we're asking is that the largest wetland restoration project in the history of the world be brought to a successful completion. So there are 68 separate projects involved in dealing with this problem. So it's a massive undertaking.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is that-
That's it, thank
That's it, everyone?
Okay,
Mr.
well,
McDonald?
thank you very much. See, I already brought up about House Bill 1317. I just want to point out that the Stewart News had an editorial over the weekend giving us the only A grade in Martin County, so I'm very happy about that. I think that's a win for us, and the quality of our, especially our staff. I'm going to give all of our credit to Mr. Mortel and everyone on his team for that. And then finally, I just want to thank Peter, our Director of Public Works, for the utilities. I've had a couple issues come up lately with some residents, and we've been working hard to resolve all of them. And one of them in particular, they're all been a little bit complex, but one of them is particularly complex that we're working on. And so I just want to give them a shout out for doing such a great job. And that's pretty much all I have at this point.
I had mentioned you, speaking of the water, several months back, that we keep these letters going. So if we have to, until we know until the plan does come through, we should, every month, if that's where you wanted to go, to the Army Corps, then every month send them, here we are, don't forget, we're waiting.
Madam Mayor, the other thing, I don't have any objection to the letter as well.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention that.
There are so many hundreds and hundreds of nonprofit environmentalists in our state, and especially in the southern part of our state. Rebel Coalition, and there's just so many. The one that you went to, what is that? The foundation, the Everglades Foundation. There's just so many of them that are always speaking about it on the ball. Sometimes I wonder, why so many? What's going on? Why doesn't it happen? But no one's pulled the trigger with the Army Corps yet.
Big sugar.
Yes. So we will go to our manager.
I had a few comments. First, I don't know if there's a consensus one way or the other, if you want an agenda item where we actually bring sections of the comp plan back and have us address them. I heard Commissioner Collins say that he felt comfortable speaking to staff directly. I can say along the lines of that, it would be walking a tightrope a little bit, because it would be difficult, for example, if there was an agenda item later on tonight and we did a presentation today
Right.
that was interpreted to be in favor of or against whatever that agenda item was, the public or the people present might misconceive the message we are trying to send. The applicant might believe that we were trying to taint the process for them, or vice versa. The public might think that we were trying to tee it up for the applicant or something like that. So I can work with Commissioner Clark moving forward on maybe some ideas on that. The other thing I wanted to talk about, just for clarity, the city received an invitation to the NAACP dinner that I believe is March 16th. I looked, and I know that last year the city bought a table at that dinner. I talked to Jimmy Smith, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday of last week, and a table is 10 seats. If the commission is interested in having me buy a table at that, again, please give me that direction so that I can move in that course. Again, it would be March 16th.
Why not just per person tickets versus an entire table?
I mean,
We have
that, you guys are welcome to do that to any event. I was just saying that in this instance, last year, the city bought a table. It's fine with me, whatever you guys, whatever your pleasure. And then I also.
I think the city's support is good, and last time we had people from, not city commissioners especially, but people from staff who work so closely with the community with other things. So you need a vote or something? I'll make a motion that the city supports this event and support it with a table. I don't know if it's gonna be $1,000 or whatever it costs to do it, but I think that it'd be good because there are lots of people in the city who work on community activities, and I think it's a good thing.
I do too. I'll move for approval if you want.
You're the mayor, so you
Yes.
can't technically do that.
That's right.
Oh, thanks. It'll be taken out of your budget, Betty. Mayor.
Were you going to say something,
No,
Commissioner?
I was gonna say, I bought my own table last year, so I think it was $1,200.
Okay. Well, I'll keep my mouth shut here. All right.
Okay, I'll move
Manager.
on.
You're okay. Yeah, go ahead.
So the other things, obviously, we had Arts Fest last weekend. The East Ocean Boulevard was closed, but it's open now, and it actually seemed very successful. Downtown was very busy. I want to mention that we've had some extremely high tides, and they've started to subside, but the high tides are causing the walkway that's underneath the FEC corridor to flood. And what happens is people get down there, see the flooding, and then turn around and climb up over the grass rather than walking all the way around. And I get it, because you have to walk all the way up to Sailfish Circle to get back around. And it's essentially trespassing. And every
On the
time
railroad.
Yeah, on the railroad. And every time it happens, I get a call from the railroad expressing concern about it. So.
Raise the pathway?
Sorry?
Can we raise the pathway?
If we got really short, but as the higher we raised it, the
Okay,
lower the
that's true
tracks are,
too,
so
yeah.
like we had to shrink ourselves down.
I know.
But when we build the new bridge, which is
a little
on the project for tonight, we are planning to elevate that, and it will make that passageway better. But
Okay.
until we do, Milton and I are going to be working on notice situations, because I don't know if the people are coming from the boardwalk or if they're coming from down the street. But when they get all the way down there and we put a little yellow tape that says that crossing is closed, no one just turns around and goes all the way back around. They're all climbing over the tracks, and we can't have that because it's dangerous and it's trespassing, and they've been complaining about it. So we'll see what we can do along those fronts.
Mr. Martell, does the railroad have cameras, or how are they noticing people? You're saying you get a
I'm sure
consistent
they have
stream,
cameras.
and they
on top
call
of that,
you and say,
But they call me and email me. In fact, I could read the emails.
no, I
but
believe you.
It
I'm
happens a
just-
lot.
It's very attentive to
Right,
them.
and they also have a bridge attendance. So they're concerned about it.
Great line trains are going 2 an hour, they're probably seeing
Right.
people.
Yeah, in any event, I mean, it is what it is, and I'll address it, but I just wanted to make everybody aware that please do not trespass on the FEC property. I would hate for them to revoke the easement to go under the bridge, because that could be the next step, and it would make it so that we can't use it at all. I was contacted Wednesday or Thursday of last week, and it was a woman that was working for Roger Dean Stadium, and she asked me to bring this up to the commission's attention, and I told her I would tonight. She wanted to know if the city was interested in, over the summer during the state leagues, participating in like a Roger Dean Stadium Stewart night, and having the Stewart sailfish race the local person and getting tickets and going to the game and having the mayor throw out the first pitch and things of that nature. She brought it up as a comment, and that they wanted to get community involvement. I mentioned it to you because rather than having you make a decision one right now, they were calling it Town Spotlight, and they wanted to start with Stewart. I said I would bring it up and have the commissioners give me feedback outside of the meeting. If we find that it comes together, then we'll talk further and do it with her. One of the concerns I had, though, as well, was if you have a Stewart night and only 4 people show up, it has the exact opposite effect. And, it's beautiful outside right now, but come July, it's not the same. I mean, like, everyone said, oh, I'd love to be outside now. Anyway,
Sounds
but
like
You'll be a
fun.
YouTube star.
if you have any interest in that or have any concern about it, please let me know, and I will pursue that and further get back to you on it. Lastly, as Commissioner Clark was mentioning the resolution regarding the half-cent sales tax, for clarification, the agenda item for tonight is limited to, we're just asking the county to put it on a ballot for a referendum, because cities can't do it. We are not debating or discussing what parameters we would set on any funds that might be generated from that. In the event that the county ultimately votes to place the issue on the agenda or on the ballot, I will then schedule another agenda item so that the city commission can in fact place very specific parameters on those funds, so that the members of our community will know that if they vote for that sales tax, that it's not just going to be buried in the general fund, but rather the commission will dedicate it to something beneficial for everybody. But that will obviously have to come back at some point in the future. And then in response to the comment that Commissioner McDonald forgot to mention, he had talked to me on Friday about some legislation pending in Tallahassee about the retail legalization of marijuana. And in the past, the city has, in anticipation of things such as that, started to put together some zoning language. So in order to avoid, the big green pot leaves all through downtown Stewart, I will have the city attorney and start working with him on some kind of zoning language that would be commensurate with the vision of the community as it relates to that.
Yeah,
So like a brown pot leaf instead of a green one.
So thank you for just that, as I've traveled in other states that have legalization and they didn't do anything, every other shop is a cannabis dispensary of some sort. And I'm not taking an opinion on the referendum. In fact, I believe the medical marijuana passed in Stewart, I think was voted up by like 86%. So I feel it's likely that this referendum will pass statewide. And it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to have some zoning in place prior to it being on the ballot as it's our form of preemption, I guess, for the state. Now, they'll come in and they'll change it, but, because they've got so much lobbying money, they literally, in Tallahassee this year, they had cannabis plants in a big display on the third floor I never thought that I would have seen marijuana in the Capitol growing, and it stunk to high heaven.
How difficult was it to get into the cabinet?
Yeah, we had to sneak it in, but they weren't sneaking it in, it was just there, so.
I forgot to mention that I had brought up painting the annex building a bright white, and I was wondering if we could or how I can still go about getting that building painted a nice, clean, bright white.
You had mentioned the cleanup of the building, and I know that Milton and I spoke, and he had some pressure cleaning done and cleaned it up. We didn't wash over the mural, but if you look at it closely, it doesn't actually qualify as needing any maintenance. I mean, if the commission wanted us to get a bid and paint it, we can, but it's the prerogative of the board. It wasn't on our capital improvement. It wasn't budgeted. So I can have Milton get some estimates and bring it back and see if you guys are interested in pursuing it.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, since you mentioned the building, what about the Chamber of Commerce building? What did we decide again, Mr. Mortel, on US 1?
You didn't decide anything.
Okay, but you were gonna just clean up the landscape and all was gonna do something with the
So-
landscaping.
Well, I emailed a person Friday and told them that if they wanted to present you with an unsolicited offer, that they should submit it. I had some other ideas for it right now, but before I brought them forward, I wanted to hash them out, so I'm not really wanting to discuss it on the floor.
Okay.
As you know, that building has a 10-year restriction because it's waterfront. I've also had some talks with businesses and residents in that area, excluding the 8 townhouses that are next door that have been built since the last time this issue came up. And there is no doubt in my mind that if you thought about putting a restaurant there, you would be met with opposition. But right now, I had thought about making it available to the public by putting a 501c3 in it, as well as potentially making it a property similar to the historic properties where we've allowed a state representative to utilize it as an office space, but I don't want to go down that path yet because the session is going on and I haven't had a chance to sit down with our state representatives to hash out any details, but I will bring that back to you at such time as I have it ironed out.
Thank you.
And that's all I've got.
Okay. All right, I'll move for approval of the agenda.
I moved for approval of the agenda.
Pulling item 14.
Oh, yes, pulling
Are
item
we pulling
14.
item 11, Mike? Because you said that in my meeting.
I mean, normally we'd,
Do I get it?
I think, if you want to, let me look at
I
this.
know,
I don't
if-
see, Jackie May is here, so yes, let's plan
Okay,
on
yeah,
pulling
can we,
item 11.
I'll move to approve agenda, pulling item 11, because Mike told me he wanted to do that, and item 14.
Okay, so we're pulling.
Second.
Okay, second, all right. So we're going to get approval for all of them except
We're just
14.
moving the agenda.
Oh, the agenda, that's right. All right, so we got a motion and a second. And all in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. All right, and then any comments from the public? We have several here. If you would like to speak at the podium, you need to fill out one of these green cards. Take it to Mary. Miss Helen McBride.
Helen McBride, I live on Flamingo Avenue. Now, my comments, Commissioner Collins and Commissioner Rich, you weren't on the board and you weren't sitting in the audience, so please, what I'm going to say. I was here when you approved Hudson on the river, and you made a lot of comments and pros and cons. One, and Commissioner, Madam Mayor, you made the comment you wanted to be sure there was parking for the fishermen. Well, on February the 3rd, I felt like getting out, and I thought, I'll just ride down to Flagler Park and, watch the people in the river and that. I came down, and when you went to make around the circle by the restaurant, you got 3 police cars sitting there with their lights on, flashing lights, and then all on the right-hand side are cones. And I thought, my God, being nice, I thought, maybe they're having a wedding and they're reserving the spots. I went around and then bingo, all cones. The fishermen, the one that I saw, well, there was 2 old, I say guys in their 30s or 40s, but there was a grandfather, his son, and his grandson. And they were carrying all their gear and they kept walking and walking. And then I thought, this isn't right, because you talked about parking. The space, they were supposed to have valet parking and whatever. But seeing all those cones and 3 police cars, who's paying for those police cars and the police officers? Then today, when I went to a meeting, a senior citizen who was born here in the city of Stuart, she was mad. She said, Helen, I went down, her son came into town, and he said, hey, Mom, you love to fish. Let's go down to the bridge and fish. She said, we went down, and sure enough, there's all the cones. They didn't have the police cars. There was a police car. He was writing a ticket to someone. And she said, all the cones, no parking. I said, no, that was on the 3rd. She said, Helen, I know my dates. It was this Saturday. Now, what's going on? That's public parking. You all did say you were going to leave some, no, they could take like maybe 4 or 5 spots. I can't remember exactly the number. But we, the people, come down to Flagler Park, and we can't park and enjoy our park because someone is reserving all our public free parking spot. That's wrong. You all have got to realize you can't do this to the people of Stuart. You can't favor the business people over the citizens, especially if a father or a grandfather wants to bring his child down. Or like me, when my grandson's in town, I bring him down to watch the trains because he's a train buff. But you've got to do something. And just like if you remember, I'm going to pick on the former city manager and the former city attorney. When that was going up and they were showing the plans, and I said, the deck in front, facing the river. I was told that it was a public deck. And I don't, it's in the record. I said, well, that'll be nice. I could get a cocktail at the restaurant and sit out there till my table was reserved. And I was told, no, that's a public deck. Well, since they opened, it's always had tables and chairs out there. And I've mentioned it to quite a few different people in the city, here in City Hall.
Miss Helen?
I mean, Hudson on the River has, what's going on? He's a very nice gentleman. I love his other restaurant. But enough is enough. When I come down, and that was with the woman that was talking to me. She's like me. We're having problems walking.
Miss Helen?
And her son said, well, we'll park in City Hall. She said, oh, no, I'm not walking this far. But it's wrong.
I agree.
You've got to
If
do
I
something.
can briefly respond, just so you know, a public hearing was held, and just like it where Sailors Returns parking lot is also a public parking lot,
Yeah.
the valet parkers are not allowed to charge anybody to park, and they have to allow anyone to park there. So your friends could pull right up to the valet, and they'll park the car for them for free and take care of it for them, and they don't have to worry about parking. They can park every single time at the very first spot, and the car will be taken care of, number one. Number two, There are reserved spaces for fishermen down there. However, the FEC
Took over.
2 of them back because of the county settlement agreement that the county had as it related to the railroad crossing, and the county required that they have full-time bridge monitors as part of the settlement agreement. However, we didn't assign the other spaces again to replace it because of the fact that when the public hearing happened about the valet and the valet was adopted, it was that they were not allowed to charge for valet at all, and there is no requirement that you go into the restaurant. So the efficiency of that was the same problem that the city ran into in 2006 when the Huizinga property opened Sunset Bay Marina and the sailors returned, that because of the merging of the property of the marina and the restaurant, it would be complicated to have people parking and not parking and deliveries coming, and the city restricted it, just as they did here, to all of the valet parking is open to the public, and that you're welcome to tip them, but you don't even have to tip. But they
I know,
cannot
I
charge
remember
you,
that.
and they cannot require you to go to the restaurant, and they
But-
won't.
If I come down and I see to the valet, I want to park, but I want to park so that I could sit, like when my back was really hurt me, sit in the car and roll the windows down, and you can look out the front window and see the water and the people and watching the young kids.
There's no parking spaces down there that would allow you to do that.
Oh,
You're talking about facing the park, not facing the fishing bridge then.
no, facing the park. People, well, it used to be before this all started, people, I know there was one, she was a very friendly lady. She had like a van, but it was like a camper van, and she'd be there all day.
Right. That's the lady that lives there
Yeah, I know.
in that van.
Miss Helen?
My-
I, I truly agree with you about the fishermen. I don't know what we can do, but that should be their parking places, and that's the way it was supposed to have been.
Can't we have
And
the,
I know what he's saying, and I'd like to talk to you
Okay, I
when this
appreciate
is
it.
over.
we got to do something
Yes, ma'am.
for the people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Miss Janine Alexander? Good evening.
Good evening. Some of you might recall that I was here in October of 2023, mainly to bring attention to the fact that I was domestically abused in February of 2015, and it was not properly handled by Stewart Police. I still have firm opinions and beliefs as to what happened and transpired, not only that evening, but on my initial arrest of March 11th of 2015, when I was surrounded in SWAT team style in a private community, 55 plus, at 10:30 at night. It almost cost me my life. I'm going to disclose something to you that has been a matter of humiliation to not only myself, but my children and my deceased mother. I still carry the title of felon on my head, and I will die with it on my head unless I take the matter before the Board of Clemency as recommended by the governor of this state's office. I haven't been viewed very seriously by the former city attorney, who is now the city manager. Recently, I had occasion to contact him in email and advise him that when I attended that evening on October 23rd, the meeting, a lady approached me, a Miss Karen Robst. She called me about 2 weeks ago. I had occasion to reach back out to Mr. Mortel and advise him of what she was claiming in her phone conversation, which sounded a little bit delusional, and I'm not going to say anything derogatory that could find me in a place of defamation against her, because there were other things that were matching up. I'm a licensed realtor. I was very fortunate that I was able to salvage my real estate license, even though I was charged with a felony back in 2015. I lost my license to teach in any state in this union, even though I held some of the highest test scores on the national teacher's exam when I took it to get my biology certification. I brought 100% pass rates out of classrooms in Middle Tennessee. I had aspired to retire in the state of Florida as a school teacher. I have been robbed of that retirement and the privilege to teach our children exactly the things that were brought up this evening about sex trafficking. I presented in Nashville, Tennessee, and I've been commented to in emails by Mr. Martell about sexual harassment claims that I brought against a former principal. Never will I be humiliated for standing my ground. But I have been in emails, and I have been publicly humiliated by Stewart Police. Multiple arrests, multiple VOPs by a former domestic partner. What I'm here to present this evening is I have no affiliation or association with Ms. Karen Ruffs. My situation is distinctly different, and I find that the city of Stewart had every reason to find fault in her dilapidated, neglected property because
Ms.
I
Alexander?
too, let me finish, please. I maintain a
Alexander?
property in the city of Gainesville where I had
I
50,000 in code
allowed Ms.
violations rescinded
McBride to go a
recently.
little longer, but I'd like for you to clear it up.
I'm really actually through. I made my point. I don't really want to present again before the city commission. I'll tell you why. I suffer from post-trauma because of the events that happened in 2015. It takes everything in me to come public. And for him to make comments and emails that are demeaning, demoralizing, and devaluing of what
Thank you, Mrs.
I
Alexander.
represent needs to be admonished by you all as city commissioners. You need to look at his
Ma'am?
emails and see the kind of comments
You're
he
not
makes.
listening.
I am listening. Thank you for listening this evening. I'm going to excuse myself. Officer Tilmanelli, before I do, could I get you to do something for me? I'm sorry, Chief Tilmanelli, because my legs
We
are
have
shaking.
another,
I just want you to hand this to Mr. Martell, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
we have one more request to speak. Mr. Tom Whittington. Good afternoon, Mr. Whittington.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Madam
Good
Mayor,
evening.
commissioners, staff, residents, friends. I'm thrilled to be here. Tom Whittington, hopefully the outgoing president of the Marine Industry Association. I'm joined here with our executive director, Justin Beard, who's just off a great first year in this job. I am here to thank all of you for your continuing support for the marine industry and the Stewart Boat Show. Stewart Boat Show is our major fundraiser, and it's what we use to do what we do in the community. And I hope you'll check out our website because this year we've been very active. I'm here especially, though, to thank you for seeing me in 2023 after our 49th boat show, when we found that we were losing some property to have the boat show, and we were scrambling. We were looking at alternate venues from Fort Pierce to Indiantown, and were worried that we would have a 50th Stewart Boat Show. And by granting us the road frontage on A1A, you allowed us to make lemonade out of lemons, and thank you very much for that. I have been part of the Stewart Boat Show for 14 years. I've been part of the association for probably six plus years. This was the smoothest running boat show I think I have seen. And even though we had a different venue, a different layout, we got a lot of compliments. A lot of folks said, oh, the show's bigger. Well, it was not bigger, but it was set up really, really well. All Sports did a wonderful job. We had over 200 vendors. We had about the same number of attendees. We actually set a record in pre-sales for tickets, but we had about the same number of actual attendees. And the weather had some effect, but that was all right. We still had a great show. We had kids from surrounding county come and take a tour of the boat show. We let them see the marine industry. We're going to do it with Martin County, City of Stewart this next year. But there are a lot of great things that happened, and I do want to thank you. I'm going to be coming again to talk to you about our working with Brightline and the U.S. Coast Guard, and we think everything is going well and excited about the progress of the the bridge, and thank you again for all your hard work.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Awesome. Okay.
I
We're
thought
through
I
with the
saw Aaron
comments.
Hawkins put in a paper.
Was there another one? No, I have only, I've only three.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Items.
And then I won't get comments from the audience, but we're going to pull 11 and 14.
Correct.
You have any comments from the audience?
Comment?
I see none.
Oh, maybe it's an item.
Can I get approval? We get approval and we get a second?
Oh, we already got.
Yes, we have it.
Aye.
All right. All in favor?
No.
Okay.
Commissioner McDonald?
Yes.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rich?
Yes.
Mayor Brunner?
Yes. Okay. Now we're going to pull 11. Was it you, Commissioner, that?
Actually, Mr. Mortel said he was,
I'm going
wanted to pull it.
to ask our grants person to come up and give you a brief summary. And the reason I've asked this to be pulled is because, as Commissioner McDonald pointed out, the Stewart News editorial board gave the city some high marks. And one of the reasons why is because it felt that the city's foresight to apply for this grant last August, when people were still fighting over the whether the bridge should be replaced or whether there should be a bright line or not, was intuitive to the extent that now the bridge is accelerated and it's moving forward. And I've asked Dr. May to just briefly update you on the process and procedure. The resolution is actually the commission authorizing us to accept the grant of $130.5 million, which I don't think is even close to any other grant the city's ever received in the history of Stewart.
Mr. Mortel, it's actually, in some ways, the grant is only I'm going to say only $130 million. But there was we also worked very closely with FDOT to get a $50 million match. So there's an additional $50 million as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of money and a huge benefit to the community related to the elevation of the bridge, the boardwalk underneath it. The Marine Industry Association will, in theory, we hope to see this come to fruition, but the studies have shown that 85 to 90% of the current registered boats using the waterway at the present time will be able to pass under the bridge when it's closed. And there's the double tracking part, which will stop us from having these freight trains staging and other intersections throughout the community. With that being said, I will ask Dr. May to take it from here.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, everybody. For the record, Jackie May, City of Stewart Grants Administrator. And as Mr. Mortel stated, he asked me to just provide you with a very brief overview. If you have any more questions that I can answer afterwards, I'll be happy to try to do that for you. So just to recap, with the goal of replacing the almost 100-year-old St. Lucie River Railroad Bridge, the city, in partnership with the Florida Inland Navigation District, Brightline Trains Florida LLC, and the Florida East Coast Railway, applied for a U.S. Department of Transportation National Infrastructure Assistance Mega Grant for $130.5 million. We have been awarded the full amount that we requested. The city will serve as the lead applicant and oversee management of the grant. FIND is considered the local interest sponsor due to their experience managing coastal resources and infrastructure. Brightline will serve to support the design and construction to meet the safety requirements and the capacity. And the FEC will lend their expertise regarding bridge operations, regulatory matters, safety, and of course, they're the current owner of the existing bridge. So getting down to the nitty-gritty, we did in fact request the $130.5 million. That will comprise 60% of the budget, which is estimated to be $218 million for the entire project. We will receive, we are applying for a federal grant from the Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvement Ranking, which is CRISI, and that will be $31.5 million, or 14% of the total project cost. FEC is applying for a State of Florida Strategic Intermodal System Fund grant of $25.5 million, and Brightline will bring in $30.25 million, and the City of Stuart is offering $250,000 in kind towards the project.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Thank you.
We got a motion for approval, motion for second. Do we have any comments from the audience? I see none. Mary, will you do a roll?
Vice Mayor Rich,
Yes.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Mayor Brunner,
Yes.
Commissioner McDonald,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins.
Yes.
Okay, now we're going to go to 14 was pulled. Was that you, Commissioner?
14 is Resolution 16-2024, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Stuart, Florida, approving the award of an invitation to bid 2024-102, the City of Stuart Pavement Maintenance Zone 1, mill overlay and point repairs project to the lowest and responsible bidder with a total unit price of $380,099.95 to M&M Asphalt Maintenance, Inc., doing business as All County Paving of Delray, Florida. Authorize the city to execute a final agreement subsequent to review and approval by the city attorney, providing effective date and further purposes. And we have Milton Leggett presenting.
Thank you, Milton. Go ahead.
Commissioners, Milton Leggett, Public Works Director. This is a pavement management project. It's the mill overlay and point repair of several of the major arteries in the city. Those streets consist of Wright Boulevard from Dixie Highway to US 1, Fork Road from US 1 to North River Drive. And keep in mind, these are all in Zone 1. And then we're looking at south of the bridge, which is West Ocean Boulevard from US 1 to Dixie Highway, and Southwest 7th Street from US 1 to Channel Avenue. And like I said, this is a mill and overlay repair project. Madam Mayor. Questions?
Hey, Milton?
Yes, sir.
Just for people that don't know, we do one zone every year with the milling and overlay, correct?
Yes, the city is divided up into 5 zones.
5 zones, that's what I was wondering, how many zones we had. So every 5 years, we're going back through and doing either milling and overlay, or do we also do the crack sealing?
Crack sealing, point repair, rejuvenation. It all depends on what area needs it.
Right. So, so this is a regular thing, and and by city staff keeping up on this and doing this rotation, we actually keep our roads in pretty good shape, correct?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you.
Very good.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
All right, we have we move for approval, accepted, a second. Do we have any comments on this from the audience? Well, I move for roll call, Mary.
Commissioner Collins,
Yes.
Commissioner McDonald,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rich,
Yes.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Mayor Brunner.
Yes. Okay, now we will go to the commission action. 17, Stewart Main Street Contribution Service Agreement. Lee, could you read that for me?
Sure, Mayor. Resolution number 19-2024, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Stuart, Florida, authorizing the mayor to execute a service agreement between the city and CRA and the Stewart Main Street, Inc. for its contributions to the city and the promotion of economic vitality, redevelopment, and historic preservation of the Stewart Main Street District, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
Good evening, Jim Korolski, Community Services Director. For the record, not the AI version, the real version. I'm here to discuss Resolution 19-2024. As you're aware, Stewart Main Street has been in existence since 1987 and has evolved over time. It has been operating under a service agreement that came due in September of 2023. And you are here to look at the new agreement that was discussed by staff and their board. Their request is to enter into a new agreement for $70,000 that is budgeted in your CRA budget. And Candace Callahan, Executive Director, is here, and she can answer any kind of questions that you may have, and I'm here to help as well.
Okay, thank you. I will open this up, if any of the commissioners have any comments.
No,
There are no comments? All right.
no, I just wanted to make sure, you know, we had this for a certain number of years as a resolution said, and then they didn't get to do certain things, I think, during COVID. So there's an automatic extension, but they're kind of out of whack now, so I guess we need to make sure that we get this done. I have no problems with the 70,000. There are probably other things that we need to figure out with regard to Stewart Main Street and how to, you know, to help them. I think that they were having this plan to be sustainable. Maybe Candace, let me hear from Candace what she wants to say.
All right, Ms. Callahan.
For the record, Candace Callahan, Executive Director for Stewart Main Street. The only thing I can say at this point is thank you for the long-standing partnership between our two organizations. Again, 37 years of service in helping achieve revitalization of the historic downtown. Because we've been so successful together as partners, I still think that there's more work to be done, especially since there are some large projects ahead for the city of Stewart that do fall within our district. We are hoping and planning to expand our district boundaries to be of more service and of more value to other areas of our historic downtown, and not just focusing on the historic core. I think that really says it all. The agreement, I think, is really similar to what it has been. It's a shame that the organization hadn't had a service agreement before, but that was because, if you remember, some of you may remember, our previous director was employed by the city of Stewart to run our program. So instead of a service agreement, you hired and paid a staff member to run our program. It's not a very common way of Main Streets operating. It does happen. There are some CRAs that do house their Main Street programs. Personally, I think my board and I prefer this arrangement where we can be a standalone nonprofit and be more of an advocate for you in working and supporting the business community, but as well as the residents and our visitors. I think it's a little bit of a cleaner way of organizing it. Did Commissioner Rich have some questions, I believe?
I'm fine.
I wanted to say a few comments too, whenever you all. Or should I go ahead?
Well, Commissioner Clark brings up a good point, and so I've actually spoken to former commissioners about their understanding of the city's agreement with Stewart Main Street, and the first time the 70,000 was awarded was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it was your primary fundraiser was rained out, and it created a dire situation, and the city provided the 70,000 as a stopgap to help you get back on your feet. But there was an end date on that original money. It was not meant to be given to you on an annual basis, on an ongoing basis. And then more recently, there was the 70,000 was given, but it was supposed to be declining in amount over, I believe it was a 3-year period. And then COVID came, and there was an attempt at an accommodation there because of the fact you couldn't rent the flagler. You know, it's a dynamic relationship, because you used to do the fireworks, right? Main Street did the fireworks. Is that correct?
True.
And you don't anymore. You used to do the Christmas parade, and you don't anymore.
We've never done the Christmas parade.
parade.
Oh, no,
No, no, no. That was VNA, and also Mary Hutchinson stepped in.
Okay, sorry.
And because we stopped doing the fireworks, we were able to do a lot more for the downtown.
Yeah, okay.
And I don't know any other Main Street programs that fund and put on their city's fireworks display.
And
That's not
Commissioner
really
Richard,
our.
If I can correct your chronology, there was a fundraiser, Dancing in the Streets. That was a big fundraising for the organization.
Right.
And then after that, there was a rainout. Main Street was short on revenue, and that's when the city decided to go ahead and
Right.
have an employee.
Yeah. That was quite a while ago.
It was.
Yeah.
And what really happened was when Thondra left the city to go to Fort Pierce, who was the Main Street director, the city had been paying Thondra full salary and benefits and had an office in City Hall. So when she was leaving, Main Street had a void because they didn't have a director. So the initial $70,000 was given to Main Street to hire a director without the city incurring the expense and legacy costs of having an additional employee in City Hall or creating what would be essentially a sunshine board. And then that was the initial, as Commissioner Rich pointed out, the 3 years of funding that was going to be provided. Then sometime after that, Main Street came in and bid on the Flagler Center to replace the Dancing in the Streets that Thonder had canceled as a funding opportunity as part of that rebuilding they were going to have during that 3-year period. However, the first year was COVID, so the city, right after we leased it to them, told them they weren't allowed to have people in it, which, you know, was obviously not fortuitous for anybody, which is what led to the extensions that took place. However, in Commissioner Campbell's, or Commissioner Rich's defense, the original $70,000 contract, if I remember correctly, and I wasn't part of that negotiation, but that was intended when, after Thondra left, to give Stewart Main Street, like you said, a rebuilding or transition period, and it was intended to end. And then the Flagler thing was actually unrelated, but because it was the same entities, became kind of interrelated, which then in turn caused the extension to it. And I think that clears up the history.
And then also at that time of that agreement, you did not have the green market. So you've added the green market to your portfolio since then, which I assume is profitable for you? Is that correct? You don't know?
Money in, money out.
What?
Money in, money out. It goes to support the downtown and our
Okay,
mission.
Actually, so thank you for finally, we did finally get the financials here. So I just have a couple of questions. It's, it says under vendor participation income, is that the green market and the Fall Craft Festival and the Spring Arts and Spring Craft?
No, sir. Unfortunately, we do not manage the vendors for the 3 art shows that we do in partnership with Howard Allen. We get a donation from Howard Allen,
Okay.
but those vendor fees are mostly
The green market.
green market. And also, I think we also now allocate vendor fees from the small vendors that we have at Rock and River Walk
So
every
he
Sunday.
how much does he pay you for those events?
How much does he pay us?
Yeah.
Howard Allen.
It's a donation. So a donation and a partnership that we have with them.
Does he put them on? Does he organize them? Does he?
Essentially, yes. So we put in the application for the event. We pay the upfront, we pay the fees, the event fees for that. And then it's like a third-party fundraiser. So they donate money back to the organization for
So
our
you don't,
support.
You don't originate, he just comes to you and says, can I be under your rubric, or, I mean, do you go to this individual and say, we want you to put on this Fall Craft Festival? This is
Well, it's a
his.
each one of those are 30-year events that we've been
Okay.
doing
There's
in
a
partnership
long
with Howard
history on
Allen
Right.
Events.
Okay.
They approached our program years and years ago because they valued what we were doing for the downtown and wanted to partner and also have a way of giving back.
This item struck me under event hall rentals.
Mhm.
It says wedding.
Mhm.
$5,843. Did you only do one wedding at the flag royal last year?
No, sir.
What?
No.
Okay.
We've done more than that. Not a lot of weddings, to be honest, because I hate to say it, lack of parking. But we've seen a decline in weddings being booked there. So we're doing more small scale events and a lot more nonprofit events and meetings. We host probably on average 1 or 2 weddings a month.
Okay. Under 3, responsibilities, you're supposed to pursue grants which support the historic downtown Main Street district.
Yes, sir, which we have.
And your total proceeds for grants was $20,000.
I don't know what financial reports you were
And yet your
given.
grant, and the grant writer expense was $23,000.
Isn't that amazing?
So are you
It's ki-
looking to be more effective there than just supporting the grant writer salary?
I'm not sure I understand your question. How do you mean efficient? Is that what you just said?
Well, the cost you paid your grant writer was
Mhm.
less than the amount you received in proceeds.
Well, because she's also working on other projects. We're not just always going after one grant for the city. We also have our own initiatives and projects that we're looking for funding for. So she's working on multiple projects at once, yes.
And right, it said,
We got a $50,000 grant for the city of Stewart to update the historic property survey that hadn't been updated since 1991. We just completed that project. We just submitted a grant again in partnership with the city of Stewart for the historic designation, which is another $25,000.
you did the grant, or did Jackie May do that grant?
We have our own grant writer. That's that
Okay.
expense that you're seeing.
Okay. So this coming year, we should anticipate.
What's that?
Well, I'm just looking at the numbers for last year, and,
Okay.
you seem to be struggling getting grant proceeds, which is something you're required
Well,
to do.
grant proceeds go specifically to a grant project. So it's not like it's free money for Main Street to support our
No, I
general
understand.
expenses. So we
you're
always
saying
try
the
to have
grant proceeds
intentional.
are listed in other places on this sheet?
No,
Okay.
they shouldn't be.
So one thing you're supposed to do is downtown design and improvement.
Yes.
Stewart Main Street shall identify a minimum of one key downtown improvement project per contract year.
Mhm.
It shall provide a summary of the project and identify the following. Your project is just an Earth Day cleanup event.
Ooh, just. Yeah.
I think you're
Mhm.
lacking a little ambition there.
Thank you for
As to what
that.
could be,
Well, we're not
you know.
responsible for capital projects. I know that language was used earlier on a phone call with me today and earlier in the week. We're not responsible for capital projects. We're happy to help. We've actually, a couple years ago, I just shared with some of our commissioners and reminded them of a project that we donated countless of hours towards, the North Osceola Extension Project, design project, to introduce more parking into the downtown, more efficiency in our roadways in the downtown. But that got put on a shelf. So also, because we are in partnership, we're supposed to be an advocate and an assistant to some of your projects that obviously align with our mission as well, and obviously being in the historic downtown. I think there's opportunity there for us to be more utilized in when it comes to certain projects. For instance, some of our projects in the past, we helped with the Riverwalk extension. We had to get the property owners to kind of buy into that concept, right? The Colorado Avenue Road Diet that was done back in 2015, I believe, Nick? So those are things that we also do. We just haven't been utilized in that way as of late. So yes, I've had to just do an Earth Day cleanup to try to make some sort of positive impact for the downtown.
No, I mean, I'm all for cleaning up litter, but as far as an exciting project to enhance the downtown and the feeling of downtown.
Happy to have your ideas. If you have any ideas for us, yeah,
Yeah, I
more
mean,
than
I
welcome to
looked
come
I
and.
went on the state Main Street site, and there's some pretty ambitious projects going on around the state.
There are.
So,
There's a lot of main streets that they haven't been successful like we have. So a lot of those larger scale projects are happening in smaller downtowns that are just starting their revitalization efforts.
so my final point is, thank you, by the way.
Of course.
Is I'm very uncomfortable with item 2, which this agreement shall be automatically renewed for subsequent one-year terms each year. I mean, as we've seen, this is they have a very changing portfolio. And I think we're abdicating our responsibility to look at all the money we're spending. We don't do this with any other organization, really.
Because
And
they're not Main Street
it's
programs.
I don't think it's asking too much of us to look at this every year, to look at what they've accomplished, and just to make a decision that, yes, we wish to continue this and we're happy with the results. So I would just I'd like to make a motion that item 2, it be changed to, this agreement shall be effective on the date it is last signed by the undersigned parties through October 31, 2024. And then that's it. So it's just a one-year agreement, and every year we have to get together, take a look, and make the decision to fund it again.
Any other commissioners? Commissioner McDonald?
So you made a motion?
Yes.
So I
sorry,
would
I was-
second that only because I do agree that it is important for us. I love everything you're
Commissioner,
doing.
don't you second it, but he wants to speak.
I was next.
But there was a motion on the floor.
Yeah, she called on me.
But if there's a motion on the floor, we're just going to ignore that? I just made a second.
She called on me, you just jumped in line.
If there's a motion, is that not Robert's rules? If there's a motion on the floor and there's a second,
Then go ahead. Go
Right.
ahead. I'm not going to argue with you. Go ahead.
am I wrong?
I thought I was next, but,
I
guess.
mean, we're doing Robert's rules, right?
Yes, go ahead. Yes,
So-
sir. Yes, sir.
I love everything that you guys are doing, so don't take that the wrong way. I really appreciate Market on Main and Stewart Main Street, but I do think it is important for us to review these versus it just automatically renewing. So that's why I would second that.
I didn't hear you. What did you say?
Seconding that idea of moving forward with this agreement, but removing just the automatic renewals of them, I do think it's important that these are coming in front of us so that we can, look at them and review them and vote for them or not.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, but I'm going to let all the commissioners speak and myself.
So I don't support that. We have a clause in the agreement that we can at any time give notice and end it. But let's just talk about Stewart Main Street for a moment and how important it is. First of all, the city of Stewart, it's not just a not-for-profit. The city of Stewart actually, at the impetus of Joan Jefferson and other people that really kicked off the revitalization of downtown, started Main Street. It was the city started. Now, I want to remind everybody, the city of Stewart was, I wasn't here in the 80s, but my wife was, and she told me you could fire a cannon down Osceola Street and not hit a car or a person. Half the buildings were boarded up. At one point, the Lyric Theaters, I believe the roof was caving in, and downtown was dead. Colorado was dead. Osceola Street was dead. Seminole Street was nothing to be proud of. But more specifically, let's talk about the history of different projects that Main Street has been involved in as far as the revitalization. And it's much easier to come up with big, grand projects when you have nothing. And so we've first of all, they established Main Street. They established events in downtown. They worked with the city, started a jazz event down at the Riverwalk. Main Street took that over, turned it into Rockin' Riverwalk. I can't imagine Stewart without Rockin' Riverwalk. Can't imagine Stewart without Christmas on Main, the Hobgoblin, the different strolls, the different art events. Not to mention the partnership that Stewart Main has done with other events.
So the Colorado Avenue, getting into some of the design elements, Colorado Avenue, and the sales. I actually voted against the shades over the stage, Riverwalk stage, and that was a mistake. But that was a Main Street program, and it was a mistake to vote against it, and because they've turned out to be such a great success. Um, I was actually met with Main Street when they presented me, that was the first commissioner, they presented the idea of extending the boardwalk. But the boardwalk was, again, that was all, the original boardwalk, from what I understand, was also Main Street worked on that and creating the path that goes not all, from all the way now, we go all the way, we have a path because of the efforts of Main Street and the city of Stewart, because we've done these things jointly, that we have a loop that you can walk down and through underneath the railroad bridge, up by Sailor's Return, past Sailor's Return, down, and all the way back to where you start on Colorado. Oh, the, the Flagler Center, yes, the Flagler Center, they lease the Flagler Center. It's one of their, hopefully, income generators. But how much rent do you pay? I think it's over $30,000 a year you pay back to the city. So we're getting part of the $70,000 back. We're also, they are running the Flagler Center for us. When we were running the Flagler Center, I think the last time that we ran it, and we weren't doing the events, and it wasn't as nice. We didn't have donors putting in windows. I think in like 2000, back before Main Street actually took it over as a tenant, they found a donor, Kim Capon found a donor to put in the glass, the new glass windows, which I'm gonna guess that had to have been $40,000 or $50,000 in windows. And they ran it for us, but in 2009, Mike, correct me wrong, was it between $300,000 and $400,000 it cost to run?
I know that Jolie's here. I think it was very
It
close
was
to
about
300.
3 from my recollection.
Yeah,
Three, so
right around
300,000. You know, we spend 250,000, I think, a year running the sailfish ball fields, and we don't require anything hardly from the little leagues here. We're getting so much value from Main Street that, you know, the Colorado extension, and when me and Commissioner Clark came onto the commission in 2011, that was a big, big issue. And it was a challenging issue. And I will tell you, Main Street, not only did they push it, they brought in experts to come in and walk the community. Ann McMillan came and walked us with an expert that Main Street hired. They found a donor to donate the money, to hire an expert to talk to us about the road diet. And those buildings, Colorado Avenue was 80% vacant. There was the old Goodyear store that was just an abandoned tire store. That's, I think, 7 or 8 businesses now. The old Crary building was vacant at that point for several years. And that is, I don't know how many, another 10 businesses there now. And all of that's had millions of dollars to put into it, not to mention every one of those buildings has been fixed up. The old Slocum Weber building has been, now it was basically a underutilized, failing, and I hate to say failing, but it was, flower shop.
Never mowed.
Yeah, never mowed, that no landscaping was done. You couldn't see the building because of the bushes that had just overgrown. And now it's a thriving business, thriving coffee shop, employing people. My wife's father's old building, in fact, I see Merritt's here, and his father used to practice in that building years ago. That was, and I can tell you, when my wife's father owned it, he put no money into it. The new owners, because of the renovations on Colorado Avenue, they invested a lot of money in renovating that building. Where Max's Shaving is, that building used to always be empty. It is completely full now. The dry cleaner had as a retail spot, and half the time that was empty. That's full. And it's extended down to businesses on Osceola Street have benefited for it, on Seminole, on Flagler, and we are seeing the benefits of Main Street in all of the work. So I respectfully request that we not pass this motion, so we can do another motion where we do it as requested by staff. Thank you.
Mayor, can I?
I was going to ask Commissioner Clark, did you have your hand up? I thought you did.
No, I
Okay.
said my piece.
Okay.
I guess somebody talked about Robert's Rules of Order, so I'll employ Mr. Baggett at this time to figure out what's happening here. So we have our regular, what is it, item number 21 dash, no, sorry, it's not item number 21.
You had a motion that was,
19-24.
that failed for lack of a second, and then you had a second motion. Or did Chris?
No, I seconded
You
it.
seconded it? Commissioner Collins seconded the motion. There was offered an amended motion was offered. It doesn't sound like it was accepted. So you have a motion and a second
So,
on the floor.
we have to also accept Mr. McDonald's motion at this time now?
He didn't
Or do
make
we have to
well,
vote on the first motion
He made a
first?
motion.
I requested that we
Right,
not pass this
right.
motion, is what I said.
And I'll
Yeah.
second Mr.
Oh, no,
McDonald's.
you can't, no.
But
you didn't make-
because we have to deal with the first one.
I'd like to just make
I
my
got to get
comment
back to
first.
Right.
I got to get back to the first one.
Yes, the first
So we'll
one.
take a vote, and if not.
No,
then-
I had a comment. I had a
need to
comment.
comment on the
I'm not done yet. We're still discussing that initial motion. So,
Yes, sir, go ahead.
I think it gets a little bit muddy here, right? Somehow, I mean, this motion is saying we want to move forward with our agreement with Main Street and do the $70,000. The only difference in from what's proposed here is that we continue to review this each year, which I would say is an opportunity to talk about it. You know, having it automatically renew is probably more streamlined, but you know, there's so many things that are always happening. This is an opportunity to, not to beat you up, you know, or beat up what Main Street's doing. Everybody up here values what you do.
I haven't had a chance to speak, so when you get through, I would like to speak.
I know. But everybody up here values what you do. I think we would all say that. The only difference is, from what's proposed, is wanting to continue what we've previously been doing, which is just look at these each year. Somehow, though, having any, not criticism, but trying to look at this critically, I think may be perceived by some as not valuing Main Street. All the work that Main Street's done, we're all very thankful for. And we all know the history of you know, what the city was like in the past. But again, just for clarity, I would like to say, I think part of this discussion, it's good because I think valid points were made, you know, with regard to the original intent of this agreement with Main Street. But I also agree that it's dynamic. It's been this dynamic thing that seems to be functionally working, right? This is, even though it may not be completely clean and this amount of money is for this budgeted, it works. Somehow it just works. But I do think it would be good for us to clarify sort of going forward, are we going to let go of this getting you on your feet thing, right? Like there's been this theme since I've been here of this $70,000 was to get Main Street on their feet. And I'm saying this for
Yes.
clarity of this motion. I'm not poking you for a comment. Hang tight.
Okay.
Or can we move, are we moving past that? And we're going to just say that this is going to be the agreement in perpetuity, which I'm fine with. And in that case, then yes, it should automatically renew. Like that shouldn't even be an issue. But we kind of need to formally, I think, put our flag in the sand and say this is where we're at now, and this is what we want to do going forward, versus arguing over how valuable Main Street is. If that resonates at all. Like, we all know Main Street is valuable, but I would just say, do we want to continue in that original, hey, the 70 grand was intended to get them on their feet, or do we want to move into a new sort of era where this is just in perpetuity, and that's fine?
Well, I would like to say,
Yes.
I'm getting tired of hearing her just getting on her feet. I don't know who brings that
I
up
know.
or why it gets started, but that I don't
Am I allowed to
believe in.
comment? on
Yes,
that
ma'am.
very thing?
Yes, ma'am, you may.
There are forces in this room, and I will not pick them out, but there are forces in this room that jeopardized our organization. I'm here to fix it and make it right, not just for myself, but for this city. How we were treated was a joke, in my opinion, and I'm sorry, and I don't want to seem like I'm not being thankful or appreciative, but there were conversations that jeopardized our relationship and put us in a box that should never have happened. When I talk to my state directors and my national directors, they're embarrassed for me. And that is not something I want to be proud about for the city of Stewart. We should be better, right? And it just saddens me to hear that that was, and unfortunately, that was right before me, unfortunately, because if I was their director at the time and I was in place, those conversations, I would have stopped and changed the narrative. I'm trying to get us back on the right path. So this conversation of let them be on their own, let them be on their, get them on their feet, we'll give them Flagler centers so they can have a revenue stream. That's not gonna do it. All you did was quadruple our budget when we got Flagler, no offense. I'm making it work, but it's not as profitable in order for us to be sustainable without these other revenue streams and other partnership agreements like this. And if you cut our legs off, we're not able to do more. We're not able to grow. Isn't that the point, is to continue to grow and do more and be more valuable instead of just doing events, which we've been put in a box to do? That's not what we do. We're not an event organization. And again, our program is supposed to be in perpetuity, helping either our CRA or the city in general achieve these goals that you have. You need us to help get some of that work done. Obviously, again, look at our resume. It's on our website of all the projects that we've helped with. And as of late, unfortunately, again, we weren't utilized because staff changed, leadership changed. Conversations were being had about what they thought our organization was and what they should be doing. So yes, in perpetuity, just like every other 2,000, there's 2,000 other Main Street programs across the country that are helping achieve greatness for their communities. Why are we being treated so differently? Especially when we're looked at from national and the state as one of the leading Main Streets in the country. But we're being treated this way.
And Madam
So I'm
Mayor,
here to fight for that.
if I could just, I'm not sure what forces at play, but I want to be very clear that the city didn't do that. My
No.
recollection of it was that there was a couple in Palm City that were operating the green market, and the city went out to RFP, and Main Street applied for that. We didn't actually ask them. They came to the response to that. And we also went out to RFP when Island Party Rentals lease entered on the Flagler Center, and Main Street applied for that as well. We didn't ask them to do those events or to participate in that. It was super beneficial to the city, and I told all of you at different times that the city could not possibly maintain Flagler Center open at the budget that's related to Main Street right now. However, for clarification, there was no time that I ever forced Flagler or the Green Market on Main Street.
No, and you are not that person.
But Mike,
I would,
just for clarity, I'm not trying to beat this to death, but for clarity, the original agreement for the 70, in your understand, I just want to set the record straight. Like, I feel like this has been this muddy thing since I've been here. What was the intent of the $70,000?
The intent of the $70,000 was to give Main Street $70,000 as seed money because Sandra left, and the city manager at the time was not hiring a director within the parameters of the city. And as a result, it was to give them the money to hire a director and move on. I know that Mr. Trolsky was probably more involved in it than I was, and he could probably answer your questions.
And I would agree with
Specificity.
Mike's description of that. It was a 3-year agreement for that purpose because when the employee was working for the city, first in the CRA and then in my department, it was an awkward, Thonder was a great employee, but because they answered to a board and also as a city employee, it's just sort of an awkward manage. We couldn't fire or hire, Thondra, and Thondra had to answer to her board. So it just made a good, clean opportunity for us to be able to separate that employment situation so that that person could actually become the director of the 501c3.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
So I had
I might
brought
give it
this
to
up,
you.
and I didn't really bring out anything the same way that Mr. Commissioner McDonald did. But I was just thinking, and I know that Miss Callahan didn't come with that tonight, and I don't think Jim or even Jolie or Mr. Mortel. But if we value the intrinsic role of the Stewart Main Street and what it means to our city of Stewart and the things that come from having a Main Street and having the association with other partners in the state as well as partners in our community, I have no idea why we have to go through this. I know that we started with this extension and starting over, which is why there might have been the idea that some seed funds need to be there. But I have no idea why we, as a city, we were paying for Thundra, and it's been years now, and prices have gone up, things have changed. There's a lot of things, they put in a lot of money into the building themselves. And even before that, when John Lozier and other people were there were always issues going on. I think we as a city administration need to step back and say, do we as a city need to put $100,000 or $150,000 in our budget to support and to make sure that we're gonna have a Main Street program and work with it? Because yes, they have their thing, and yes, they are raising funds and they're doing administration, but I think it's just so intrinsic, the value that they bring to the community, that we need to show strongly that we support them. I didn't want to add in something to the $70,000 today, which is why I'm thinking that, you know, you're saying to do it every year, but I think that we as a city need to, even though we don't have an employee that we're having, we need to put in some money, more than $70,000, to have it in our budget annually to make sure that our backbone is gonna be there and that we're gonna be able, they're gonna be able to really have the strong foundation and the key support of our city to do that. That was, I just brought it up about the 70, hoping that somebody would say something. And I see that Mr. McDonald has done the analysis of some of the intrinsic value and the physical value of what has happened. We would be nothing if people like Ann Macmillan and other people didn't put their reputation on the line to stick with Main Street and to make sure we had it. We had problems. We've had people who've passed away, not calling any names. We've had problems with things before. We're getting the reports that we need now. We have people who are interested in really making this something that's, it's a wholesome organization. It's doing what it needs to do, but it needs to make sure that we have that foundation. And as a city in the state of Florida, and for the things that Main Street has done, and for the reputation that we have, instead of saying we're doing 70,000, we might stop them next year, we might stop them the year after. We need to be steady, and we need to make sure that, well, I know you're saying, they give an annual report, and, hold
Commissioner,
on
let
one
her-
minute,
let
Mr.
her-
Collins, I'm not gonna get into anything with you, okay? So, it does say in item number 3, Mr. Collins, that they can, come back and do something every year. Where is that? Can somebody help me? Section 3?
2.
Section 2, okay. Section 2 and 3, that says that they can, additional, okay, section number 2, yes. So it is covered, that they can come back and we can do it at any time, but I really need, Mr. Collins,
Mr.
Collins,
Collins,
I'm
you're out
not.
of line.
Something that's
Mr.
not accurate.
Collins,
Hold on, we're
you
saying
have
something that's not
time.
accurate.
Finished, do not say anything while I'm speaking. I'm not finished. Thank
Listen,
you.
if it's
Thank
not
you very
accurate,
much.
it's not accurate.
Okay,
You can have
just
your
hold on.
time
Then
to
you'll
tell
say-
her
you'll
that.
say it when the time is right.
We all say inaccurate things at times, but we don't behave like this, sir.
Somebody should
No, you're
should
wrong.
correct the
You're
record.
wrong.
I know you guys are
You can
eager to
correct
shut
her.
me up, but I'm not going to let
No, sir,
something
that's
fly
not
that's not
true.
true. In this item number 2, it says that it's going to automatically renew.
And
This
you
doesn't
were
have to
going to
be a
have
big
that
deal.
turn to do it.
Let's just be honest about
But
what
you
it
just
says.
couldn't wait.
To do it.
And you don't need to shut me up. I'm
Okay,
just trying to correct the
just saying-
record in the moment.
Okay, all right, I know, I said, that's you, anyhow, I'm not even gonna tell you, but that's Mr. Baggett's thing. Anyhow, so whatever it says in section 2 and section 3 and all of the sections, we have we have one motion, the other motion didn't go through, but I really think that we need to give instruction to staff to look into creating and maintaining and having solid funds in there for Main Street as long as we're here as a city of Stewart and as long as we have a Stewart Main Street. And if they come to us, if Mr. Flanagan or somebody comes to us and say, hey, guys, we have more than enough money, we don't need our money, the city's budget, because we're flush, but we, the city, needs to show that we are in full support and that we want the staff to be able to have the ability to work instead of worrying about what are we going to say to the city to make sure that they're going to give us some money next year. I don't even want to. My blood pressure is up.
okay.
That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Clark. McDonald and then me.
Okay, so, yes, term 2 says it automatically renews.
Yes.
And I think that is important. And
Yes.
the reason it's important is that for long-term stability.
Yes, sir.
We have it rated, it also says with 30 days written notice.
Term 7 is the 30.
Yeah, so term 7, and it's actually, I think it actually even says it in term 2 as well, can be canceled by error, but term 7, termination agreement, either party can terminate the agreement without cause, with 30 days notice. And they're doing reporting, we're seeing them, they come and give us an annual report every year.
And I still, don't forget, I report to 2 other organizations. I have to do good. I have to check the boxes.
So we've got this. This in Main. I think that Main Street has proven itself, and it's proven its effectiveness. The Shop Local, Shop Smart program is still going on. Great program.
I'm expanding it. So.
And that's an award-winning
Yes,
program.
we won an award for that.
So and then I also and I'm going to digress for a moment, but I have a list of all the accolades the city of Stewart has received. Best small town, best downtown to retire in, a lot of that has to do with the efforts jointly between Main Street, the city of Stewart, the CRA, the Downtown Business Association, because we've done this in a teamwork and partnership. And the automatic renewal is to show confidence. We still have the reporting. If we're not getting what we need, we can terminate it. And so that's why I'm really focused on the long-term stability so that the Stewart Main Street Board can do long-term planning without going, oh, God, we just have to get through this one thing every year. They can do planning and show us what they're doing, and they can be budgeting for the future. So that's all I have. I will not support the motion the way it's written, announced right now, so.
It helps us knowing that we have your trust and your support, because when we go after grants, that's a longer, I applied for a grant and I won't have those funds for another year. So the projects, the lead time on these things is why we have, Main Streets generally have in perpetuity agreements. And yes, if we're not doing our job, then you hold us accountable because we're not abiding by the agreement, but I'm not gonna let that happen while I'm here, just for the record. But I think it helps us feel more safe, right? And any kind of relationship, business transaction, you want that safety net. You wanna feel valued and there's goodwill there. I don't know. And it's sad, again, I will reiterate, it never should have been handled this way to begin with. It never should have been a 3-year agreement or a 1-year agreement. There should have always been funding for this organization rather than putting it on them to figure it out. And then they had to produce a huge event, or Dancing in the Streets, a huge festival to try to generate. Do you know how much it costs to put on big events? I know my friend does over there. that's not a healthy way of becoming sustainable or doing better and doing more things for our community. And I'll stop there.
Well, we don't just look at this every year and just pass it. You have been under the microscope for several
Since I
years now,
started.
and it's time for that to stop. I remember when I got here, I was on the CRB board, and how I loved the CRB board, and they let me go different places and learn more and more on main streets and what little cities were doing.
Yeah.
And then when you came on board, I would come over, and people need to hang out with you a while and what you do and see what you have accomplished. And then you take it over, the green market. Well, it's not the green market anymore. It's Market on Main Street.
Yeah.
And it is so successful. If you haven't been, you need to go. You're really going to find out something great in your little city that's right down the street. And the Riverwalk and just everything you do. And I think we can handle it. If you get out of line, we'll let you know.
You know where to find
You
me.
know, you're doing pretty damn good, girl.
Thanks.
So you have my support. No, I won't accept their motion.
Madam Mayor, may I be heard just for a minute? For two things. Number one, the Vice Mayor's motion has been seconded by Commissioner Collins, so that needs to be addressed before any
Yes.
subsequent motions are raised. Number two, I think there's obviously some unclearness about this term that I drafted in this agreement.
Okay.
And it's attached to the agenda item, and it's on the very first page in paragraph number 2. It's the first sentence. And it does say, now, my understanding is this, the prior contract expired before I came on, I think sometime in September or thereabouts. And since it didn't have an automatic renewal at that point, we're now several months into it, and there is no contract in play. So if there is an automatic renewal on an annual basis, that could help prevent what we're going through
Yes, sir.
now with several months. And I just wanted to put that out there. But Commissioner McDonald pointed out that there's 2 areas in the contract that allow us to terminate the contract with 30 days' notice. We can do it at any time, regardless at the renewal, but also at the renewal, you have 30 days before the renewal, we can notify them that we're canceling the contract. And that obviously would give you an opportunity if you want to renegotiate terms. But if everybody's okay with how things are going, then you don't really have to do anything. And that's,
Need a question?
so, sure.
Ask him. Yeah, ask him a
I was actually just looking back at this, and it also said it's subject to the annual funding appropriation approved by the city commission.
Yes.
So whatever that is, it
Right.
doesn't have a minimum or maximum amount. So we could actually, if we were unhappy with Main Street, we could actually just not fund their budget.
So that would be another avenue, but.
So,
And while you're in there on 8, there's a "the" in there that needs to be marked out.
There's a what?
The, THE, scratch it out on number 8.
All right.
Okay, Commissioner?
So I feel like in our discussion, we're finding consensus there with this being in perpetuity, and that sort of getting on your feet thing maybe was a narrative that that was mischaracterized or whatever. So that's kind of what I was fishing for earlier. I would like to see that even if it's not directly related to whether or not we're going to fund that partnership agreement, that we do have an opportunity yearly, maybe for you to come forward and for us to all talk about in some detail, the goals, what's going on.
Yeah, that happens.
I
That
hate to
happens.
lose having this kind of a conversation.
No, absolutely.
Because
It's-
things just roll over. And I know you would be totally for that.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see that continue each year.
Well, I'll remind, I know I've told some of you, and I'm sorry, Eula, that we didn't get a chance to meet,
right.
but we are planning to hire a consultant to come and work with our organization. Hopefully the timing works out once we know these other bigger projects in our district have been approved, to get us on the same page. And we're going to be inviting all of you,
Right.
because we are your program, to kind of work with us on like, what do you want us to do? Like, it's a collaborative thing. It's not, so yes, by all means. Like I said, there's been so many missed opportunities that Main Street could have been of more service. And I just promise you that I'm here to be more involved with you guys. So.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I just had one more point. And I just wanted to say that I know that these events are probably a lot of work for you. But I hope that you don't move away from doing events because it's
Oh, no, no, no.
one of the best things.
What we're doing will always
Everybody
remain the
loves coming down to
same.
Riverwalk and
Oh, no.
So just in the
Now,
future.
if we didn't get funding, then maybe we'd have to talk
Sure,
about
sure.
reducing some of our expenses, which would probably be our events. But our plan is not to do away with anything that we're already doing.
I just heard
It's to do more.
You mentioned that, and I wanted to address
Oh,
it. Like,
yeah, no.
Please don't stop
We
doing
will
the
keep
events.
those going as long as you allow us
With
to.
that,
Hopefully, we can end this, but we're not
Yeah,
quite.
I just got one little thing to add, and maybe this will help. One is, it sounds like we're getting some consensus that understands that there's two opportunities in the agreement to cancel, plus we have the funding, so therefore, and just to answer Commissioner Collins, I wasn't on the commission when they voted on the 3 years. I would not have supported that. I think it should have always been an in perpetuity agreement. But maybe it would be helpful if we made one small change to the giving the Stewart Commission a commission seat on the Board of Directors of Main Street. And that way we have seats on other boards, the Business Development Board, we have seats on the Arts Council. Would you guys be okay with having a city commission having a board seat?
I don't believe that would be an issue. I work for my board, so they'll have to give me direction on that one.
Yes or
We
no?
do have Jordan, who is on our ex officio, as a ex officio member. So if there's no conflict of interest on your end of things, I don't see why that would be.
And I think ex officio, you think it should be a voting member?
Well, first of all, it's my understanding that during some negotiations with the prior city manager, that the Main Street Board gave him the discretion to appoint a representative as an ex officio member. I think what would probably happen if you guys appointed a commissioner that would replace Jordan rather than have
Well,
a duplicative.
If I may, I do like having staff as well, city staff, and I think we would welcome both, if that makes sense. We also have a CRB representative too.
Before I go on, you can have as many board members as you want, and if you wanted Jordan to be a board member for any reason, she could be welcome to be on your board just as any other member could be on your board. I looked for and couldn't find anything in writing that created Jordan's relationship to the city as far as a board member. When you and I spoke,
Yeah.
you told me that it was related to it, but there is no documentation that says in exchange for this, the city has an ex officio member. So what Commissioner McDonald's talking about is actually incorporating it into the contribution in the
language of
contract
the
and saying as a
contract.
condition of the money, there's a board member. If you have other members of your board that are work for the city or are related to the city, that is normal because
Okay.
obviously you're a downtown board. I mean, that
Yeah.
would make sense.
Okay, great.
So that's fine with you?
She said yes, ask her
I
board.
believe that's fine, yes. They can yell at me later, it's fine.
So that's a yes. Commissioner Rich, do you want to amend your motion?
I'd like to.
No, you finished, yes. Go ahead, Commissioner. And we still have that motion. It's been seconded. I have two people that needs to speak, and we still might have another motion after we vote.
Just to
Roll
clarify
call.
something here. The Creek District is not part of Main Street, right? They have their own separate,
That is correct.
right? Does the city give the Creek District any money to support their efforts?
I believe they do,
That would be a
yes.
staff question. That would be no. We have a license agreement with the Creek District that's similar to Rock and River Walk.
Okay. And the DBA you're separate from the DBA.
That's correct.
Why do you accept responsibility for these events if they're so burdensome to you and distract you? You seem to indicate that they distract you from what you really want to be doing. Why let us
Because
outsource
it's for the
them
good
to
of the
you?
community. And
What?
it was for the good of the community. And at the time, those events is what helped drive the economic activity for the downtown. I didn't say I wanted to stop doing what we're doing. The events are going to stay the same. We just want to do more larger projects. If it is a capital project.
what?
More projects. not just events, but we want to do more projects to help the city, whether it's a design project or an improvement project, and not just do an Earth Day cleanup, because that doesn't seem to be, of value, but we want to be of value. We just need to know what you're trying to achieve, that's all.
Okay, Commissioners.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioners, let's.
Oh, I'm sorry, I have one more. I'm a little, Mr. Baggett, I'm a little confused because it says we will pay them 70,000 under 5. So I understand the point made by Commissioner McDonald's regarding subject to annual funding appropriation, but doesn't this oblige us to give them the money?
Yeah, I mean, we're, under the contract, yes, it would be, we'd be,
Okay, so we're mandated
70,000
to
per-
appropriate the money.
per year.
Yeah, right. So
So that's, I was.
so we don't get another bite at the apple.
Well, I think 70,000 is fine, but I think that is, but again, we could not appropriate it and cancel their contract with 30 days' notice.
This is an annual contract. I guess before you had a 3-year contract. This is just a 1-year, so
Oh,
every
but it
year,
automatically renews, it's.
unless you decide to cancel it.
Unless during the budget you don't fund it.
Mr. Hogarth, I'd love to hear you speak.
Thank you, ma'am. I'd feel remiss if I didn't speak, since I did have a little bit of authorship in this language, so I didn't want all these people taking the bullets and not me as well. So with that said, the thought process, and we had a lot of conversations behind, what it should be, and it's not perfect language, I get that. Look, in Congress, think of it from like a congressional standpoint. By federal law, to pass any kind of funding mechanism in Congress, you need two things. You need a federal authorization to do it, and 2, funding. You need to fund it. So both of those things have to be done separately and exclusively. We kind of took that model here where we applied it to this agreement. We said, hey, this is the authorization resolution, and then the funding mechanism every year through the CRA or the city, that's a separate mechanism that's done separately. And depending on what you want to do year to year, it could be that you want to change the terms or the conditions of the agreement, in which you would go back and revise the agreement with that 30-day rule or whatever else. Or you would just change the dollar amount. If the dollar amount was at issue, you would change that through the budget process. What that would allow you to do is, if you just wanted to change the dollar amount, you wouldn't have to go back to this agreement every time and rehash details. You could change the dollar amount separately and exclusively. Not saying that's the perfect solution or the best solution. It was just, that was the model we used. The language can certainly be changed, but that was the intent behind it, is you have really 2 avenues. An authorization of the language, but then also the funding mechanism. So,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Just wanted to clarify.
Now I'm going to go to the public comments. The first one is Aaron Hawkins. Mr. Hawkins? Thank you for being patient and waiting.
Yeah, it's all good. I just wanted to come out tonight and give some public support to Stewart Main Street. Ever since I've gotten involved with the organization, I've really seen how much work and how much they actually do for the local community here in the downtown. Besides Stewart Main Street, I also but I volunteer my time with the Martin County Black Heritage Initiative, and on the side, I run my entertainment business, so I get a lot of interaction here in the downtown with a lot of the patrons. And I just want to say that it would be, the value that Main Street offers is not strictly financial. It is more than that. I helped craft some of their surveys that they use to regularly get feedback and information from the community, from the patrons, from the businesses, and it's a great organization that the community sees the value in it. The businesses see the value in it. I hope that everyone up here can also see the value in Stewart Main Street. I also wanted to extend my support for item 19 on the list. I know parking is a huge thing, and if I can connect this to my former point, Stewart Main Street was a leader on that, and still is, on trying to figure out the parking situation. But like I said before, I run a local entertainment company, and I have a lot of time to interact with patrons here in the downtown, and a new location would definitely be something that people are certainly interested in. The more variety, the more people that come, the more customers, the more money, the more happy businesses are. So,
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Nick, you're next. Schroth, Mr. Schroth.
Good evening, Commissioners. Nick Schroth, for the record, resident of Stewart and past Main Street president. Go to put a little color or a little of my history to the floor tonight. When Thondra was leaving the city, kind of left a void in Main Street's ability to deliver on what Main Street does or what Main Street had done. So the concept of, getting on your feet or that idea was a product of us not having, anybody at that time. I don't know that it was ever the intent that there would never be any dollars from the city to Main Street. I think the general fund budget for the city of Stewart is something like $34 million. So, the $70,000 that the city contributes to Main Street, when you start looking at what Main Street does, I feel like the deliverables are there to justify that. I mean, if the city's operation of the Flagler Center was costing $300,000 and now it's, $30,000 in income, I feel, that alone is a deliverable. The Rock and River Walk, the Hobgoblin, Christmas on Main, a number of the things that Main Street does locally, those are all deliverables and if not for Stewart Main Street, would be a cost to the city. So there's always been that concept of transferring from a, hey, this is just $70,000, you just lost your director, to, these are deliverables, this is what the organization does, and this is, we're there. It's been a number of years. COVID was a setback, but, in the early years of Stewart Main Street, when the downtown was boarded up, when Colorado was a mess, it was real easy to see the things that Main Street could tackle and could do. And that's where, folks like Ann McMillan, Joan Jefferson, they played a huge role in bringing those things to life and fixing what were obviously problems. And they were obvious problems, so they were they weren't necessarily easy to fix, but they were easy to see. What this commission and the city of Stewart in general, needs to recognize is that, and it's always been a problem with Stewart Main Street, is that their efforts kind of get taken for granted because they just get meshed into daily life here in downtown Stewart. Rock and River Walk just happens, and if you snag, one of the 5,000 people that was at Christmas on Main Street and asked them who did this, none of them would know, or they just assume it's the city. So, thank you.
Yeah. Ms. Inez? Thank you for your patience.
Thank you for not saying my last name.
I know.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. The first time I was engaged with Stewart Main Street was in April 1st, 2000. It's when I took a job at the Lyric Theater with John Lesser. And you could throw, there wasn't a lot going on downtown, and there definitely wasn't any economic vitality in any way, shape, or form. The stores were struggling, the stores that were there. The restaurants were 1, 2, maybe. Not open all day, not all open every day of the week or whatever it may be. Stewart Main Street at the time stepped up with the restoration effort of the Lyric Theater. And that was the jewel of our little downtown. And when those doors were able to open more frequently and not just be that open mic night on Tuesdays, you might remember that. And we started bringing different acts here. We rebuilt the second floor. We brought in an elevator. We broke out the back wall. That was because of a public-private partnership that we had with Stewart Main Street and the city of Stewart. That would not have been possible. And now look where we're at. All of these things should not be taken for granted. And when I speak about economic vitality, I'm not just talking about whether the stores are open this Sunday, whether those cash registers can keep clicking all day long. It's really about sustainability and resilience. And this partnership will help this city keep that sustainability and be resilient for a long time to come. Keeping an agreement in a perpetuitous type of language is important for a couple of reasons. Candace mentioned it earlier, that trust, that safety. But it's also about funding. Granting cycles are sometimes 3, 4, 5 years. So you may see on the ledger that $23,000 in, 20 out, whatever it may be. Grant cycles don't match fiscal years or calendar years in some cases. And they look at those long-term relationships that organizations have with their community partners, such as Stewart Main Street with the City of Stewart. So when those relationships are interwoven, they are long-term and established, that makes other funders look at our organization, our community, as solid, as good stewards of the funding that may come our way. So I urge the City of Stewart to continue this partnership for as long as possible. And I appreciate Commissioner Clark's words about let's reevaluate the funding from year to year, but don't reevaluate whether we do this agreement or not. It's something that needs to be a part of continue to be the DNA of our community, and look for opportunities to enrich each other's service agreements, if you will, ours to yours, and back and forth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. You come and speak, and then Tom Whittington's going to come right behind. That's okay, Miss Helen, you're special around here. We all know it.
Thank you. Helen McBride. Believe it or
Very
not, I
special.
was at the very first meeting when Ann and Joan, right here in this room, and the city manager, Melissa Collins, was here. And truthfully, at the time when they were talking and what their dreams were, and I thought, oh, I don't know. But it was through hard work. And they was Ronnie, I think it was Joan and Ann that went down in Miami and got him up here and entertained him and that. And they really, and Julie from Rio. And I know myself, I say, Ann, if you need me, call me. But if you have volunteers, don't call me. But if Ann needed me, she called, I was here. Stewart Main Street hosted all the other Stewart Main Streets in the state. And they came up, it was at Flagler Center, and Ann called me. And I stayed all day, but when they were all leaving, they couldn't get over, because for lunch, they all went to different restaurants, and one girl, she went shopping, and she was showing me all the things she bought in downtown Stewart. It's, you get what you pay for. If I buy a sandwich and I only want to pay $1, I'm going to get a slice of bread. But if I'm willing to pay because I know I'm getting something good to eat, that's it. But we can't do. I know you say $70,000. Some people make that, in a year. But it's what you've got to look to the future, because they're going to come up with different things than that. And like Troy said, you've got the right, if you don't like what they're doing, you can call the Stewart Main Street people up on the carpet and say, hey, we don't like what you're doing. But dancing in the street, that was wonderful when they first started it. Then it got bigger and bigger. And I know I came down for one. I was a volunteer. I couldn't get it down in because the place was jam-packed. So we're a very, very small town. So, and I've been paying taxes for 50 years, but this is a great investment. So please keep our Stewart Main Street going. Thank you.
Mr. Whittington? Thank you for your patience.
Madam Mayor, the Commissioners, Tom Whittington. I'm usually playing tennis on Monday night, and somehow when I'm here, I'm sorry I'm not here, because watching you guys work, you folks work, watching your concerns, your interest in wanting to make sure you're doing your job, I appreciate it. I'm not a resident of the city, but I certainly benefit from the city of Stewart. I would say that I see a little bit of a change, a little bit of a wave, a little bit of an understanding, acceptance, and some movement, which is great. I think that's important for all of us. I don't think there's a question on anybody's mind that they have a value. Stewart Main Street has a value here. It's just figuring out how to make that work for the city, and I'm sure you guys will figure that out. I would just say, being part of an association that comes to you every year asking for closure of the road with the understanding if I don't get that, I don't have any funds coming in, it's daunting. And I just cannot imagine association like Stewart Main Street not knowing that they are being, let's say, funded, helped, shepherded along by you guys in perpetuity. So I would just welcome you guys to get with them, be on their board, and help continue this, make this work. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. That is,
Madam Mayor,
yes, sir, Mr. Matheson.
I'll fill out a green card after it. Merritt Matheson, for the record,
Yes,
City of
sir.
Stewart.
Thank you.
There's some stuff that the city doesn't want to run or shouldn't have to, and that's where Main Street comes in, and it is a great partnership. They've increased their workload over the years that I've seen, and the next step, too, has to be on the commissioners. I can't count the number of times Candace and I talked on the phone or went out to lunch, or I talked to Mr. Flanagan or Mr. Schroth about what I wanted to see as a commissioner from Main Street and how we could work together. And that communication happens the best not here in these chambers, just out one-on-one, walking around the Flagler, walking around the city, talking about ways that both organizations can benefit the city. And if that continues to happen, it'll be good for all of us. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
She will answer. Listen.
Now, we're going to take, this motion is Commissioner Rich's motion. This is the one we're voting on. Roll call, Mary?
This is the motion for item 2 in the agreement to be changed to a one-year evaluation.
Yes, ma'am.
Not on an annual basis, okay. Commissioner McDonald?
No.
Commissioner Collins?
No.
Commissioner Clark?
No.
Vice Mayor Rich?
Yes.
Mayor Brunner?
No.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve the agreement as staff recommended with the change that the city commission is allowed to appoint a commissioner as an ex officio member of the board.
Second,
You don't think it should be?
do we have to wait until we hear back?
Why ex officio, just question.
Commissioner,
Voted.
Yeah, no, a lot of times board member, but we can make it a standard straight board member. I'll just
Yes.
change it. I'll move that, we move the agreement as drafted and add that we city commission gets to appoint a board member.
all right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Clark. Do we have any comments from the public? All right, Mary, roll call, please.
Mayor Brunner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rich?
Yes.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Commissioner McDonald?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen and ladies. Very good.
Thank you, Commission.
Congratulations.
Where's that easy button?
And I just want to say, I know sometimes we disagree, but I think there's a lot of value in us going back and forth and sorting it out. I know it can be difficult, and sometimes we want to get out of here, but I appreciate all of you being willing to talk.
If you were my son, no.
Madam Mayor,
You wouldn't be able to handle
Oh,
me.
yes, I would.
Madam Mayor, I must say that,
They don't know
You
my
know-
mom, Albert.
sometimes I'm probably somebody who speaks under my breath or say something sometimes. So I'm not saying that Mr. Collins is the only person who interrupts, but when it's something like that, and we know that it's there, and Mr. Baggett is there, he's capable, or if we need to have something clarified, and I just wanted to be sure that I could at least speak without somebody going in. If it was something that I was saying against something that he said, and he had said it and it was incorrect, but it's already in the thing, and I just wanted to say that I didn't mean to be over something to you, but I just want to know that it's very clear that when it's something like that, I just don't appreciate it, that's all. I said it, and I hope that we can continue to work together.
You're a tough woman, Ms. Clark. I appreciate that. Okay, we're going to go to 18. Support of the half-cent sale. Lee?
All right, thank you, Mayor. Resolution number 21-2024, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Stuart, Florida, supporting a referendum on the November 2024 ballot for a 10-year duration half-cent sales tax to purchase and conserve natural lands in Martin County, being voted on by the Martin County Board of County Commissioners on February 20th, 2024.
Madam
Providing an effective date and for other purposes.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Do we have
Public
any?
comment?
Is there any, would you,
Would Mr. Matheson like
Mr.
to?
Matheson?
I'm just
Please
here
come
on
forward.
behalf of Martin County Forever to answer any questions. For the record, Merritt Matheson on behalf of Martin County Forever, City of Stuart. If y'all have any questions about the initiative, I'd be happy to answer them.
No, I just would like to say I know how hard you've been working on this, probably 2 years, I'm not sure. But I'm very proud of you, and every time I see you put something on Facebook and all the things, all the places you've been going and all the hard work, I don't think anybody has any idea how hard you've worked. And I truly believe you have got the county, all of the people, not just the city, but the county, this whole county, that is going to vote for this. I really, truly, when we put it on the referendum, that this is going to pass, and it's all because of your hard work, and I thank you.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor, and I just want to remind everyone, February 20th, there's a preset at 10:30 where we'll be going before the county.
Yes.
But that's phase one. Phase two is to get it passed by a majority of the voters. You know, so as I know all too well, and everyone does up in those seats, you cannot stop someone from doing what they have property rights to do. And
Can
if
I
you
ask-
have a passion to preserve Martin County's quality of life, and that's what this initiative is overall, not just an environmental initiative, but a preservation of Martin County's quality of life, we need to take some more land and put it in preservation. And I hate to say it, but the best way to do that is a sales tax. And the best way to generate money is to have other people pay for almost 40% of it. And that's what this will do.
That's right. Thank you.
Any questions?
Madam Mayor?
I just wanted to, oh, yes, sir,
Oh, I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
I just, you know, you've made it difficult for yourself because this is going to be on the ballot during a presidential election.
I would push the presidential election off if I could.
Yeah. But most people probably aren't aware, Martin County is one of the highest voting counties in the country. I once did exit polling for NBC, and Martin County came in at 93%, and I reported that to NBC, and they said, that's not possible. And so, and obviously, this is a very controversial election. Everybody's going to be out. So you have a big hill to climb even after you agree to get on the ballot. And hopefully we can find ways to help you.
Thank you. I'll need all the help I can get. It won't be easy, but the time should have been 5 years ago.
I probably shouldn't say this. It's not coming from the mayor of Stewart. It's a personal citizen that will vote for this. But are you having people come and sit in that audience at the county and waving signs?
I am encouraging everyone to come. Again, February 20th. We have a preset of 10:30, but I already know people will be there between 8 and 8:30 to show up, support. We'll be passing out stickers and signs, and we need all the help we can get. So everyone, please come and show up.
I thank you, sir.
Look forward to seeing everyone there.
Okay,
And then we begin phase two,
that's right.
educating every voter in the county. Thank you.
You bet. All right. Now we're going to We're going to move on to,
I have to.
Is there any other
oh,
public?
yes, I
Any other public
apologize for
comment?
this resolution. Any comments from the audience? All right.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rich?
Yes?
Mayor Brunner?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner McDonald?
Yes. And on the last time, I'll move to continue the date certain item to March 25th. The
Second.
restaurant.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any comment from the public?
Anybody want to talk about it for an hour?
I see none. Let's have a roll call, Mary.
Mayor Brunner?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner McDonald?
Yes.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rich?
Yes?
I move to adjourn.
Thank
All
you.
right.